Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins. Copyright disclaimer. This content does not belong to Bible Chronicles or claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles did not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material in use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes, and thus Bible Chronicles believes that this principal material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law.
Quiero pensar, pero no puedo, no. El ruido en la ciudad está consumiendo, Quieren pensar, sin ni siquiera estar al mando. Tanta publicidad subliminal te está matando. Les cuesta decidir por sí mismos cuál es su mando. Publican sonrisas con el corazón llorando. Quieren brillar, pero sin tener que valerse de tener sus ideas propias. Los veo a todos igual, solo son la réplica de la imitación de una triste copia. Obedece, la vida es un suspiro y envejeces. Te dejas distraer por estupideces y pierdes el eje. Te duele por dentro, entonces te creces, pero aceptas mucho menos de lo que mereces. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar, y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar, y solo así podrás brillar. Conserva tu juicio y tu intuición, más activos que el que lucha por lo suyo y no se rinde. Yo ya sé bien cuál es mi misión, y es contarte que el mal por su propio pie pronto se extingue. No caigas bajo su control, pues por la televisión es normal que mal lo pinten. Tú mantente firme en conexión con la fuente de creación, vivirás siempre de fin de. Dios abre los ojos, dime lo que ves. A tus propios hijos matándose por billetes. Niños por cada 2 por 3. Pa' unos es bendición, con otros por su causa pequen. Y yo que intento ser un ser crístico, voy bendiciendo hasta los diablos. Piensan que es cierto el mensaje típico. Dicen que invento lo del engaño, y mientras lucho contra mis errores, demonios escucho, me ofrecen soluciones. Pero sé que hay un ángel que quiere que mejore. Me dice haz un trabajo interno antes de que lo ignores, antes que otra vez llores y se llenen los mares de pena y de dolores, ya que en mi mente no caben. La paz no va en un sobre, somos algo importante. Nunca te revelaste y por eso no lo sabes. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar, y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz podrás brillar. Me desperté tan cansado, me sentía mal herido de todo lo que he pasado. No me quita lo aprendido, por dentro me he perdonado, pero casi no me olvido. Me desperté tan cansado, me sentía mal herido de todo lo que he pasado. No me quita lo aprendido, por dentro me he perdonado, pero casi no me olvido, no. Todos repiten lo que dice el referente. Discursos vacíos lejos de ser coherentes. De lo que no sabes será mejor que no inventes. Que investigues y no te dejes lavar la mente. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar. ¿Y quién te ha dicho a ti que no puedes pensar sobre lo que le di, sobre cómo actuar? Lucha por ser feliz sin a nadie dañar y solo así podrás brillar. Quiero pensar, pero no puedo, no. El ruido en la ciudad está consumiendo,
All right, fam, give me a second. I'm going to start pretty soon, all right? Just give me a second. I'm trying to get these things going here real quick, all right?
Viven huyendo de la envidia como los niños en Siria de la bomba que le manda el Pentágono. Y todo el día, mamá mía, keeping it mood, that's so real. Love man, I never fear, never, no. La travesía de la vida más que misericordiosa y nuestra prosa siempre vaya a favor, no. Tú podrás por mí traicionar a tu familia, matar tu brazo, sangre si vos sabías, pero yo no. Familia, es el que está a la mínimo. Familia, comparte almas cristalinas. Familia, Rasta Giant familia, Magna Boy son familia, ya no maniga.
هوا ديالي شو من حالي وشو من حالي هني بالك ربي كبير وربي عالي هو اللي جاي يديني اليوم وباغي سالي ربي يغفر لي يا ولد دراري هوا ديالي شو من حالي وشو من حالي هني بالك ربي كبير وربي عالي هو اللي جاي يديني اليوم وباغي سالي ربي يغفر لي يا ولد دراري un sueño donde no había amor, se perdía el color de una flor, se marchaba lentamente, con el sol en el horizonte, pude hacer algo para calmar en mi dolor, y es por eso que le pongo flow, viviendo alto siempre, Burro Cubimba, y es que todo por la familia, Burro Cubimba, y es por eso vengo a bendecir. Burro Cubimba, y es que todo por la familia. Burro Cubimba, y es por eso vengo a bendecir.
Familia, es el que está a la mínimo. Familia, comparte almas cristalinas. Familia, Rasta Giant familia, Magna Boy son familia, ya no maniga.
Magna super slalom, subiendo a nuevo escalón. Metallic in the salon, esquivo like Sil Stallone. Esos tics van del palo, pero bitch no rascan balón. Aunque me enrollo nada cáñamo, nunca me paro. Aunque van tras de mí, no se pueden medir. Buscan el elixir, está metalizado. Y es que yo soy así, no van a descubrir sexy flow y skill con este descaro. Si familia necesita de ti, fíjalo. Por Connection Antarctic Free, dígalo. A mí nadie area de París, día yo. Los magnetes han llegado, están aquí, víalo. Para soportar el dolor como no imaginas, es la vida en ámbar. Aunque creas que no puedes tú solo con la movida, yo llevaré tus bambas. Familia, fighting the hate and the media. Familia, it's original, man. Familia, fighting the hate and the media. Familia, Yo soy un rocket, ellos Aprilia. Con los míos siempre se lo baila. Menea, melena, remueve la vaina. Aunque agarre fuerte el fruto para que no se caiga. Son los Maga de Boss Final. Con los míos siempre se lo baila. Menea, melena, remueve la vaina. Aunque agarre fuerte el fruto para que no se caiga. Son los Maga de Boss Final.
Dispara millas sin mirar y sin mirar sin asimilar que es la puta herida de tu vida hurgo. Los manas te la chatarrillas hacen pa' pillar piltrafillas, tres no nos pilla y se va con la furgo. Te hará falta una pedicura y una cura si se apura, quizás llega la locura de mi turbo. Dale vueltas a la partícula, deja ya la mandíbula quieta que sola llega a Luxemburgo.
Niño, prepara la compota que la pera pata.
Pero vinimos a mejorarla.
Pa' hablar por mi familia y tengo autoridad.
Saben que no puedo cagarla.
Y poner ritmo y los manos les bota cuatro patas. ¿Quieres esa vaina? Va a probarla. Tole aquel en el party donde se gana. What the fuck, what the girl, what an alma. Vive muriéndote la envidia como los niños en Siria de la bomba que le manda el Pentágono. Y todo el día, mamá mía, keeping it mood, that's so real. Lo es man, never fear, never, no. La travesía de la vida más que misericordiosa. Y nuestra prosa siempre para allá fabono. Tú podrás por mierda traicionar a tu familia, matar tu brazo, sangre, si aún sabías, pero yo no.
Familia, familia,
Es el que está a la mínimo.
familia, familia,
Comparte almas cristalinas.
familia, familia,
Rasta Giant familia.
familia, familia.
Magna Boy, su familia, ya no maniga.
Bombo cry, sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it, cross the line on them. Warrior, vengo con los míos, Magna Gate, alive, fire them. Bombo cry, sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it, cross the line on them. Warrior, vengo con los manas y saqueto, alive, fire them. I gotta stop, shut up on the microphone ballad, and let's smoke the marijuana, psycho Buddha bombo clap. Bang in the street, fire burn it, fill it with. Rasta man, I got Illuminati, play the kill. Stop, shut up on the microphone ballad, and let's smoke the marijuana, psycho Buddha bombo clap. Bang in the street, fire burn it, fill it with. Key Cray is a king, Magna sting. Nobody, no kill them.
In a creepy style. Chale, no fire them. It's a Rasta ganja.
Nobody, no kill them.
It's a crispy style. Tally, the fire cream. It's a Rasta ganja.
Familia, Rasta chai is familia.
Key Cray is familiar.
Familia, pure nego is familia. Familia, Zico, Key Magneto, familia. Familia,
Es el que está a la mínima. Familia. Comparte almas cristalinas.
familia, Rasta Giant
Familia. Magna Boy que te aplasta, nego.
El autor viene a decirnos con mucha firmeza y gran convencimiento lo mismo que nos decía en el siglo XVIII el barón de Holbach, ¿no? Un filósofo francés de origen alemán. Si nos remontamos al comienzo, entonces hallaremos que la ignorancia y el temor crearon a los dioses. La fantasía, el entusiasmo o el engaño los adornaron o desfiguraron. La debilidad les rinde culto, la credulidad los conserva, la costumbre los respeta y la tiranía los apoya para que la ceguera de los hombres sirva a sus propios intereses.
Okay, I think we got that cleared up. Give me a second, fam. Give me a second, real quick. Let me see if I can get this going. Boom. All right, here we go, man. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Good to be back. Good to be back. Man, sometimes stuff happens, bro. And you know what? No matter what you try to do, still stuff happens. It's been kind of better up and down at the house lately. My son's been doing better. Not at its best, but better. I'll just say it like that without complaining. So let me go through the roll call. Hey, saludos, shalom, sis. Good to have you here. Yeah. What up, Joe? What up? Good to have you here, bro. I'll be real. What up, bro? I want to move to Mexico. Yeah. Well, you know what, man? I think at this point, anywhere below. You know what I'm saying? Good to have you here, V. I'm just gonna go through roll call, okay? See who's here, who's not, who's missing before I go and anyhow, so I called it. It's probably the cheapest thumbnail I've done in a while. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really care, to be honest. I just wanted to name this topic something like this because it's kind of a joke, to be honest with you. GOP Jesus. I mean, really, it has gotten to that point. And with me, yeah. Hold on a second. There you go. That's what that GOP Chiwiwi, dog. Wannabe. No, that's a wannabe Messiah. They gave us a variety of colors now and shit. Anyhow, so check this out. Anyways, so I like to approach things from a historical perspective, right? You guys can probably tell. It's been a while since I've done a class, however, on history and a lot of scripture. So I'm going to do that today, but it's for a purpose. So see, I keep thinking how if things repeat itself, people repeat themselves and they become themselves once more and they end up wanting to become who they were. It's kind of typical, right? So now, in order for us to really dissect who we are today, we do have to look at history, at us as a nation, at other nations, their conduct, their history, yada, 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 all that stuff. So now, in order for you to do that, you have to be not biased is the word. Not try to find a narrative that makes you feel good. Truth is going to fucking be painful. You know what I mean? It's going to be that way because a lot of times it won't make sense at first. Eventually it will if you're patient, but it won't. A lot of times it won't. So people get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know it happens. It happens to everybody. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this is because the history that is given to us is in front of us. Unfortunately, it's the history that they give us. We can only use what they give us. We can't do nothing more than that. We can only do what they use what they give us. So let's use what they gave us. And now let's reflect on history. You guys have followed this channel for quite some time. Appreciate you. You should know now where I'm going with this. Look, check this out. It's so interesting. When we were first introduced to this book, The Lost Tribes and the Promised Lands, The Origins of American Racism, a lot of people went into the whole glow of this book. Oh my God, look, Hebrews, natives, da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, it's good. Don't get me wrong. But somehow, some way, we forgot the first parts of the book. And in the first parts of the book, it talks about a history of people. It talks about a history of people and their relationships with each other. Oh, sorry, my bad, man. I can't believe I've done that. What a dumbass, bro. Here he goes. Boom. Sorry, my bad. All right, so we're looking at the lost tribes and promised lands, the origins of American racism. Okay. Now, I was saying that this book here, you know, we've all heard of it, especially when the whole, you know, Hebrew stuff came out and shit. Like, oh my God, lost tribes in the promised lands. Hebrews, Hispanics are in there, bro. 10 tribes. So people ran to this book and, you know, at the shiny shit of the book. But they didn't thoroughly read it, or they put no interest in the history. So let me introduce you real quick to some things. I'm not going to read a lot of this. I'm going to read some more material that's more important. But here's just a kind of summary. We see here that Spain traditionally been, from a cultural standpoint, not so much a part of Europe, right? It's talking about, you know, Spain and Europe. And it also mentions something interesting, by the way. It mentions somewhere in here, Europe and Africa. So also was the fully historic encounter that took place in the 3rd century BC between the Carthaginians, who had succeeded the hegemony established in the south of the peninsula centuries before their Phoenician forebears and the Romans. You see what I'm saying? So you guys that know or follow enough history and Bible, you should know what this is saying. Now, this is the important part here. This struggle and its outcome established a pattern that was to be repeated in the Middle Ages with the Arabs and the role of Carthaginians. The Roman victory in the Punic War brought Spain into the orbit of Latin Europe. You understand? But not necessarily to the complete effacement that other cultural strains had come from, that had come up from Africa and ultimately trace its origin to Semitic East. Not at least if we may judge from their persistence of place names like Cadiz, Cartagena, and Barcelona. May we not assume that at least a few of its deposits lingered in the collective memory as they did on the map? Now, so remember, think about this book. They lo and behold, look what we found, Ark. Look what we found, Ark. And then you just ignore the history of what the book is actually saying. There is a relationship between Europeans and Africans. Is it not here? Bible speaks about a nation from afar, from the end of the earth, that you would not know them, nor would you know their religion. Let's continue. We know that elements of the medieval Arab cultural legacy have persisted in Spain to this day. So it's quite possible that sometime similar happened in the ancient Carthaginian ones. So here we see, you know, some relationships. As you know, I brought out another class before, not too long ago, Visigoths, and we're going to touch on that a little bit right now. But let's continue. Why this all matters. It's talking the 5th century, Roman, Carthaginian, Phoenician, Spanish, what the hell? Finally, in 711, which is 711 AD, 700 years after the birth of the Meshiacha, this apparent Roman Christian idol was violated by another tidal wave from Africa, carrying another legacy from the Semitic East, this time in militant Islam, which swept up through most of the peninsula and pushed back the remains of Visigoths rule nearly to the Bay of Biscay. There is in the rough Cantabrian, northwest to the forces of the Reconquista. So now we see, okay, hold on a second. Africa invaded Europe. You know, there is a group of people that talk a big game as if the Bible applies to them, even, and they claim to know this history and claim to be running shop in this time, and then in the same breath claim that they don't know they're slavers. So you rule them, you enslave them, and then they rule you and enslave you. Now you don't know them, so now you fit the script of the Bible, the curses. Is that what we're seeing here? But that's not my point so far yet. I'm giving you a history of what's going on here. It's going all the way back to when? 1492. You follow me now? Okay, it says here. It says at the best for the next 300 years, there was not to be aroused to the systematic reconquest until in the 11th or 12th century, a new wave of invasion from Africa threatened to upset the balance of civilization that had then become well established in Iberia. Even then, the eruption of Reconquista was thereby provoked had run in its course by the middle of the 13th century, which with part of the peninsula still in Moorish hands. The Kingdom of Granada was not to be eliminated until 1492. Now,
That's gotta hurt!
well, not necessarily yet, but 1492 is a year when who came where, from where? Right? You have to see what connection do we have with that, or they with us? In the final resurgence of their conquista had been stimulated in part by a new racial consciousness, and that soon showed its imperialist undertone. You see what we're talking about here? We have a mixture of Europeans, Muslims, Africans, right? Are you guys starting to follow here? This is around the end of, the end of Moorish conquering, which at the end of the day was connected to 1492, which is when Granada fell officially. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because here we don't necessarily see it, but we'll read it a little bit. Again, this is on page 19. I'm not going too far in. It says, another example of potential Andalusian cultural synthesis, the dialect spoken by Abd Adar Raham III, or variant of it, was widespread in the Moorish Spain, not only among Mozarabs, Spanish Christians living under Moorish rule, but also among Muslims, many of whom were at least partly of Christian descent, and among Jews. This situation had its literary manifestation. So now we see Moors, Christians, and Jews. You guys follow now. I hope you follow. Because this is from, and I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to show you some things real quick. I showed you this book before. Jews and Moors in Spain. So don't get it, don't be surprised by it. 1887. And these guys have been working together. Now, are we claiming that these are real Jews? Hell no, I'm not claiming that they're real Jews. They're just as converts as they can be. But I'm establishing a history here. Moors, with the decline of Mohammedan power and the expulsion of the Moors by the Spaniards, the Jews were again reduced to a pitiable state. You see what I'm saying? Now, if we go up a little bit, it says here, is it this one? Then the Arab invasion during the period of Mohammedan supremacy, Jews became. See, look, then came the Arab invasion, and during the period of Mohammedan supremacy, the Jews were again allowed to live in peace and the exercise of their own religious rights. Okay? So now I'm giving you once again history of the Jews and the Moors. So now we know now Moors, Arab relationship, something like that, right? You know what I'm saying? Let me check real quick. Hey, what up, brother? Good to have you, bro. Good to have you. Yeah, hold on a second, Reveal. I'll get you right now. So as we see now in another book, the one before is Jews and Moors, right? In Spain. Okay. The one before is the typical one, the Promised Lands, Lost Tribe, which everybody knows about this for the most part, but nobody decided to read the book or the beginnings of it. Jews and Moors in Spain when they're over there conquering. And then Jews and Muslims, or Moors, technically, in British colonial America. Huh? Yeah, really? Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere. So who are these Jews and Moors? And how come they're like, what, are they working together? Is this what I'm finding? Jews and Moors working together? Pilgrims, Puritans, Jews and Moors. it's an interesting thing here. It's a page, a preface. Shoot, look, check this out. In this work, we present a series of colonial documents, contemporary first-hand accounts, records, portraits, family genealogies, ethnic DNA test results, which fundamentally challenge the national storyline depicting America's first settlers as white, British, and Christians. We postulate that many of the initial colonists were Sephardic Jews, you see, and Muslim Moorish ancestries. How so? Usually arriving as crypto Jews, or crypto Muslims or Moors. You see? What is even less frequently mentioned regarding these Spanish, quote unquote, and French settlers settlements and voyages is that many of the colonists and sailors were of Sephardic Jewish and Muslim Moorish descent. Several of those aboard Christopher Columbus' first voyage in 1492. Which is why it's important to look back at these particular dates and find out what happened. What happened in 1492? Who fell and who rose? We didn't go this far in this one. I mean, we were pretty much like, what, on pre-fact? No, this was like somewhere ahead. Let me see if I can just catch it. 1492. Let's see. If not, I'll just skip it. No big deal. Well, I showed you guys already. Several of those aboard Christopher Columbus' first voyage in 1492 and famously even Columbus Colon himself were of Jewish ancestry. Can't get any more interesting than that now, can it? See, look. The same writer estimates that all told, Spain lost 1.5 million people as a consequence of the purification, supposedly, of the population of Jews and Moors. So we see Sephardic Jews and Moors were present as navigators, ship captains, sailors, metallurgists, cartographers, financiers, and colonists. Now, keep this in mind, that a lot of these were from Sephardic, Ottoman, and North African founders. Most, if not all, I would say 90% of them are definitely converts. Their lineage is of conversos, no even real Jews, by the way, or even the so-called that were up in North Africa. Shlomo Sands completely reveals this. The Lost Tribes of Myth is a book that you guys can catch on to, and it could actually tell you the same thing. We see a lot of these similar names and words that we've heard of in the past. But why am I bringing this up? Why is this important? Well, because, family, if these guys had a great relationship with each other, what makes you think that they wouldn't share secrets, so-called secrets, towards each other? Now, this is a book called Los Judíos en el Descubrimiento de América. Okay? Check this out. Daniel Mesa Bernal, right? Repertorio histórico de la Academia Antioqueña de Historia fundada en 1903. So here we see something with disque judíos, right? Okay. We saw that something fell in 1492 and something grew in 1492. Check this out. I'm going to read it in Spanish a little bit. Let's see if it's here. Give me a second. No, I don't want to see that there. Let me see if it's on this one. Give me a second, family. Let me see if I can get this. Here it goes. Creencia judía sobre nuevas tierras. Okay? Now, many of you probably, I think you guys did see this. Hold on a second. Let me see. me see. Hold on, I get it. Give me a second, fam. Here he goes.
Why did you wish to sail west?
To open a new route to Asia. Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold. At the moment, there are only two ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year. Or by land. But the Turks have closed this route to all Christians. There is a third way. By sailing west across the ocean sea.
The distance is unknown. It's said to be infinite.
Superstition. I believe the Indies are no more than 750 leagues west of the Canary Islands.
How can you be so certain?
The calculations of Toscanelli, Marin de Tir, Ezra.
So here we see this dude here quoting Ezra's. Now quoting Ezra's in the Bible, by the way, mind you. He's talking about Ezra's, this one. In case you guys don't know, he's talking about 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 40, where the 10 tribes went from there on, okay? That's what he's talking about. That's why he mentions Ezra. So now let's read this real quick. It says here, creencia judía sobre nuestras tierras. Judíos y conversos apoyaron el viaje de Colón con entusiasmo, pues estaban convencidos de que existían hebreos en otras tierras. Esa convicción se fundaba en la tradición, en las interpretaciones de los rabinos de los libros sagrados y en los comentarios de los viajeros. Siempre preocupó a los judíos la desaparición de las 10 tribus que se remonta al año 722 antes de Jesucristo, cuando el rey Sargón II tomó el capital del reino de Israel. This is when the dispersion, the breakup, the first conquering separated the tribes. That officially was after 535 BC, but he's talking about initially. Hasta la época del descubrimiento de América se consideraban las 10 tribus viviendo en Azaret, palabra que significa la otra tierra. Terminó confuso y poco significativo. De allí que surgieron hipótesis y fantasías. So, here, let me continue. Comenta Vicente Risco que según el Talmud de Jerusalén había israelitas en lugar oculto donde por especial providencia de Dios vino una nube y los cubrió para preservarlos de los pueblos extraños. And he's talking about Sidr Olam llama a aquellos nubes montañas de oscuridad y se ha interpretado de que esa tierra oculta durante siglos fue América. So now, we can go on and on and on. You guys can read this here later on. It's up to you. But why am I, again, bringing this? Because first here, then here, then here, then here. Now, what is one thing that we've heard of a lot? A lot of people have said, and they have told us with their history, right? That supposedly there were certain people here in this land that is not us, by the way. Apparently, that's the story. Certain people that are not us are of these lands, right? Supposedly, they look like people from the other place, like Africa. Let me introduce you to something that you guys should be aware of. What kind of people we're dealing with. The Moors were profoundly versed in the occult science at Toledo, Seville, and at Salamanca were once upon a time the great schools of magic. Do you understand that? The scriptures talk about dealing with witchcraft and magic. I've showed you guys a class and other times in videos, many times actually, of the origin of certain of BHI, Black Hebrew Israelites. Who was their origin? That dude Matthews. That guy practiced witchcraft. What do you want me to tell you? And this Blavatsky practices the Kabbalah, which includes the Sifrod, which is part of the Talmud, which is Ein Sof, which is that whole checkerboard shit, which is the Moorish concept. I mean, they throw the pyramid and show you, and they show us with their own faces. We're dealing with witchcraft. So, how do you combat witchcraft? Well, you could try to be a witch, I guess. I don't know. The way I'd like to combat witchcraft is with truth and this history that we have in front of us. A lot of you guys hate it, but you can't deny it. Now, why is this important to know? This is very important to know. Because we were also told, and this is how you start considering the destruction and the erasure of our people, right? If you don't know who these nations are historically, or how they've known each other historically, you would assume that what we're learning today is true, and it's not. By far, it's not. Now, we know that there's certain type of people here, like the Jews and the Moors. I think both of them are still claiming now, both now claiming to be the real Jews. Well, here's a little story that I like to present to you, and how, if you don't know your history, it'll, I guess you could say you'll be stuck in a matrix. Now, why was I showing the Jews and Moors working together for quite some time? Because look, this is no different. The Jew, a Negro, did the Negroes know of America? Theodore Siculus, we're going to read about him soon, tells us that the Phoenicians in early times sailed beyond Hercules pillars along the African coast. Remember Phoenicia? Remember Europe? Remember Rome? You see, this is why I showed you those other books. Okay? It says here that Phoenicians in the early times sailed beyond Hercules pillars along the African coast, and there, meeting with storms and tempests, were carried to the remotest parts of the ocean, and after many days came to a vast island at a great distance from Libya. And lying far west, the Phoenicians informed the Carthaginians of this place. Remember Carthagenia, right? Okay. And the Carthaginians prohibited other nations from settling in it, they reserving it for themselves as a place of retirement if they should ever be driven from their native soil. You see, now, people read this and ran with it. They ran with it. Without care. Without care. They didn't put no importance into it. It didn't matter to them what you felt. They said, no, that must be true. Well, let's go to the horse. I don't know why I had the link. I already had the link already. I don't know why I do that. Give me a second, fam. Well, let's go to the horse's mouth. This is Theodore Siculus, who they quoted. Okay? And they're saying that they're, in a very gravitas way, like, oh yeah, we were here before you guys. Regardless of who claims it, who pushes it, you guys are both at work at hand. And trust and believe, family, I'm going somewhere with this. Because this is also part of your history. So here we see this Theodore Siculus. This is how they recorded his comments. And if you go to this section 5.19.1, here's where we go. Here, check this out. I want you guys to pay attention to this. All right. This is, I think it's important. Let me take a little break here. Let me see what you guys got going on. Yeah, man. Matter of fact, do that. Hit the like button, bro. You know what I'm saying? And they throw those hand signs when they say specific words. Yeah. Yep. Modern day Tunisia, North Africa land bridge that connects to Iberia. Yep, it's very true. So let's go to this. In this section, you see, but now we have discussed what relates to the island which lies within the Pillars of Hercules. Bro, come on. Okay. We shall give an account of those which are in the ocean. Oh, great. Hold on. I'll read it again. Don't read it. Here goes right here. We'll go back to this section here. I just wanted to make it clear to y'all. Okay, here goes there. So for there, okay, it says here, but now we have discussed what relates to the islands which lie within the Pillars of the Hercules. We shall give an account of those which are in the ocean. For there lies out in the deep of Libya an island of considerable size, and situated as it is in the ocean, it is distant from Libya, a voyage of a number of days to the west. Its land is fruitful, much of it being mountainous, not a little being a level plain of surpassing beauty. Through it, pay attention, it flows navigable rivers, which are used for irrigation. The islands contain many parks planted with trees of every variety. In the garden, in great multitude, which are traversed by streams of sweet water. On it also are private villas of costly construction. And throughout the garden, banqueting houses have even been constructed on the settling flowers. And in them, the inhabitants pass their time during the summer season, since the land supplies in abundance everything which contributes to the enjoyment of luxury. So this is what Diodorus Siculus stated regarding what they actually did find. Okay? Now, keep in mind that these people here who have the history, who should know it, I guess, could share this information and say, hey, how did Solomon end up getting that gold? But anyways, look, I don't want to segue on that lane because I don't take you another lane. The point being is this: history is available to those that really search for it. Family, do you think this land was new to them? Absolutely not. Well, now we are being very, very. No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Now it's becoming a little more clear as to their so-called coincidence. How'd you get here? And why did you come? And what did you bring with you? We didn't ask those questions back then. We're asking them now. Who are you? Why'd you come? What do you got? What did you bring? Why did you know what I mean? What happened to where you're coming from? Why do you have to leave your land? So it says here again that they saw navigable rivers, they had parks, contained all kinds of trees, gardens of every variety, and that kind of traveled through through navigable rivers of sweet waters. They had private construction, villas, houses. You know what I mean? Like houses that were actually settling on flowers, like the chalupas. And in them, inhabitants passed their time during the summer, since the land supplies in abundance everything which contribute to the enjoyment of luxury. You see, they didn't say this. Instead, they said this. All they did was excluded any of that. In no moment did they even mention it. Here's what they did say. The Phoenicians, which is 5.20, not 5.19.1, by the way. No, they skipped all that and they went to 520.3. The Phoenicians then, while exploring the coast of the Pillars for the reasons we have stated, and while sailing along the shores of Libya, were driven by strong winds distant into the ocean. And after being storm-tossed for many days, were carried ashore on the island where we mentioned above. And when they had observed its felicity, the nature, they caused it to be known unto all men. Consequently, the Tyrrhenians at that time were the masters of the sea, purposed to dispatch a colony to it, but the Carthaginians prevented their doing so, partly out of the concern lest many inhabitants of Carthage should remove there because of the excellence of the island, and partly in order to have ready in a place of which to seek refuge against an incalculable turn of fortune, in a case of total disaster should overtake Carthage. For it was their thought that, since they were masters of the sea, who came in 1492, and what did they come on? Ships. They came on ships. They would thus be able to move, household and all, to an island which was unknown to their conqueror. So they showed this here, right? They showed that. And they go out of the way for that. Ivan Sertima, The Unexpected Faces, the Caucasus Mountains guy. You know, they really emphasize these things, but they leave out important stuff. But now they leave out important things, but that doesn't give you an excuse not to learn about your history. Now, let's take us back to this whole important section here, because here's where we have history and documentation that cannot be denied. Check this. Through it, excuse me. This is back to where they're talking about when they first saw the island from a distance. Through it flows navigable rivers, which are used for irrigation, and the island contains many parks, planted trees of variety, and in gardens of great multitude, which are traversed by streams of sweet water. On it also are private villas of costly construction, and throughout the garden, banqueting houses have been constructed in the settling of flowers. You see this? Houses been constructed in settlings of flowers throughout the gardens, and the inhabitants pass their time during the seasons. Okay, so check this out. They want to promote stuff like this when it suits them. But what about stuff like this? Now, this is from a book called Mexican Pyramids. Hold on, the Mexican Pyramids. I'll get the book in a bit. Give me a second. Let me just read this to you. This is on page should be 9. Okay, and you know, it's funny how they use these pictures. Like, it's just hilarious, man. But anyways, on page, let's see. Check this out. When the Spaniards first glimpsed the island capital of Tenochtitlan, glimmering like an exotic Venice at the end of a wide causeway, with stunning palaces, temples, and pyramids, stucco pink with volcanic ashes rising from the cerulean waters of the lake, they thought they were dreaming. Though many had seen the splendors of Rome and Constantinople, they were amazed at a city of 300,000 inhabitants, fed by fresh water aqueducts. Remember, streaming sweet waters, laced with canals and carefully paved streets, adored by an arcade square twice as big as Salamanca, serviced by a marketplace where 70,000 Indians daily bought and sold 1,000 different products, from filigreed jewelry to mountains of polychrome feathers, including those from the rare quetzal bird. Spaniards were enchanted by such luxuries as botanical and zoological gardens, by elegant towered palaces higher than the cathedrals of Seville, surrounded by large and beautiful private houses or villas, right? With fragrant gardens shared by bright cotton awnings, where courtly nobles feasted on fruits and vegetables, sauces, soups, fish, meats, cakes, and pipes, varied by such delicacies as maguey grubs with hot chili, wang ants, savory herbs, rats, and chocolate sauce. I don't know about all that, but that sounds to me like what these guys were saying right here. Costly private villas, and it's also private villas of costly construction. Not just one. Now check this out. This is from the American Holocaust. Okay? It says the same thing. Just like what these Phoenicians had seen from a distance, when these Spaniards showed up, they saw the same thing. When we saw so many cities in the village built in the waters and other great towns built on dry land, and that straight and level causeway going towards, see, Tenochtitlan, we were amazed and said that it was like the enchantments they tell of in legends of Amadis, on the account of the great towers and temples and buildings rising from the water, all built on masonry. And some of our soldiers even asked whether the things we saw were a dream. See? About 60,000 pale stucco houses fill the inland metropolis, some of them single-story structures, some of them multi-storied, and all these houses were very large and very good rooms, also pleasant gardens, a variety of sort of flowers, both on the upper and lower floors. What are we reading here? Again, Theodorus Achilles, look what he wrote. Through it flow navigable rivers, which are used for irrigation, and the island contains many parks planted with trees of every variety, and gardens in great multitudes, which are traversed by streams of sweet water. On it also are private villas of Kasi construction, and throughout the gardens, banqueting houses have been constructed on the settlings of flowers, and in them the inhabitants pass their time during the summer season, since the land supplies in abundance everything which contributes to the enjoyment and luxury. Come on, fam.
Are you?
How is it so? Do we not now? Does none of that stuff matter? Now, why do you think that when let's say, for example, me, I hear comments like this, and I go, this has to be psyops. It's got to be psyops. What other reason? What other reason? Check this out.
See how she acted. Well, let me school the so-called school teacher. Now class in session. Professor Vicki Dillard is the instructor. Miss Jane Elliott, did you know that there were certain so-called Indian tribes? By the way, the original natives were black-skinned natives. Y'all do understand that. You do understand that some of our people were actually already owners in here in what you call the United States of America, and some of our people were snatched and enslaved from the continent of Africa. You do know that, right? Just want to clear that up. But in addition to all of that, Miss Jane Elliott, does she not know and understand that some of the natives were actually slave holders? Miss Jane Elliott, did you know that the U.S. government years ago entered into certain contracts with several of the tribes, paid them money to release some of their slaves and to pay some of the slaves? And some of the Indian tribes, not only did they not release the slaves in the time that they promised the government that they would, but they kept the money that they were supposed to pay us. Did you know that some of the Indians are the ones that helped to chase runaway slaves and drag them back to the plantation? Did you know in recent history that some of the Indian tribes objected to black folks receiving some of the payouts, where there was a provision in some of the treaties where black folks that look like me are supposed to be entitled to some of the tangible benefits that's in some of those treaties? This is the reason why the great Dr. Claude Anderson literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own very black dollars in court to fight for some of those legal treaty tangible benefits. Did you all know that? And the nerve to say that we don't get it unless they get it first. So not only were we some of the originals, but not only as the melanin lightened up over time, there was some of the ones that you recognize as Indians are the ones that enslaved us, kept us enslaved, entered into different contracts with the government, refused to release us on time in terms of out of slavery, and didn't pay us some of the monies and funds that they received. And modern history, some of the tribes reject black folks receiving some of the tangible benefits where there's provisions in some of those treaties that means that belong to us.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay.
Elliot, I want you to watch this first clip.
To do it that way, then first you have to pay off the Native Americans, whose land we took and whose homes we took and whose people we killed in the millions.
No, they got paid. They got paid.
We'll have to,
and they have land.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
They have land. They have reservations, and they also have economic.
Oh, yeah. And would you like to talk to me about reservations and what a wonderful payment that is? Would you like to be on a reservation? Would you be willing to, and would all the black people in this country be willing to take a reservation?
That's what the Nation of Islam was asking for.
Well, was that a smart thing to do? I don't think it was.
Do
you think it was a really comfortable place to be?
The way that they were living, no, I wouldn't live like that.
Oh, but
funny, the way they were living, I wouldn't live like that. Like they would be any better for you. Anyways, this is why this crafty council must be stopped, and at no moment ever given any leeway whatsoever. Call it off for what it is, because it is what it is.
There were no Indians here when Christopher Columbus got here. There were people from Africa.
Yes, I agree there was no Indians here, but there was no Africans either. There was Cree, Soto, Nakota, Sioux, Seminole, Kiowa, Aztec, Mayans, Inuit, the list goes on. But I'm proud that I come from a people that her people tried to kill off and failed. And now she's trying to change and erase history because it doesn't fit her narrative. How convenient.
There were no Indians here.
Very true. How convenient, right? How convenient. So check it. I'm going to show you something real quick. I told you earlier that, you know, it seems to me that, well, matter of fact, here, I'll say it like this. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 15, it says, that which has been is now, and that which is to be had already been. So that which past is current, that what happened, okay, hold on a second. I even confused myself. That which has been is now, the past is now, that which is to be had already been, the future is today, and God required that which is the past. And it's just basically a cycle. So just like, or like, for example, I was thinking about, you know, because I got several days of so-called, you know, quote unquote sobriety, right? You know what I'm saying? Not one drink, not even one. And I was kind of reading something about addiction and stuff like that, right? And it's funny because it takes about 1.5 years or 2 for your mind and spirit, so-called, to rewire itself. So you need time away from that addiction, drug consumption, whatever it may be, to rewire your mind, which also is rewiring your spirit. So if you are away from these demon spirits, religions, occults, beliefs, doctrines, you're not in that drug anymore. Now you're starting to cleanse your spirit and cleanse your mind. You know what I'm saying? And you start seeing things for what they are. So here I'm reflecting on, why is this important to me to show? I didn't want to do this, family. To be honest, I'm getting tired. I got a lot going on. And I just didn't want to do this no more. I was like, man, I don't want to do this no more. I ain't lying. Like Jeremiah is like, bro, you have me in derision. But I'm like, you know what? And plus I'm moving. So I go, man, at least let this be one last class, at least for now, until I can get situated again, because I don't know if I'll be able to do these classes like I used to. I got to move. It's got like 40 miles from here. So I said, you know what? One last rodeo, I guess, for now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm finishing. But I reflected on, why is this important? What is it that my spirit is asking of me? Why is this so important? And, you know, it's like reflect on the addictive part, addiction or alcoholism or drug addiction, whatever you guys are dealing with, right? I dealt with alcohol. I don't have any other ones. But anyways, when you get away from your addiction, it takes about 1.5 years or 2 to get your mind right. Some, you know, and your spirit as well. It's the same thing with this. So my spirit is yearning for my original self. That's what I believe. And this is why I guess you could say is being demanded of me to do. So let's read this from the scriptures of Gazetteer. What did these indigenous people here in America do that was so different than other nations, right? You would think, what is this so special? So check this out. We'll start in the bottom. Their belief in the symbolic purification of water the inhabitants of Yucatan gave to water, with which they baptized their children. The title of the water of regeneration. They also invoked him whom they believed to be the living and true God, of whom they made no graven image. They used circumcision. They expected a Messiah. Many words connected with the celebration of religious rites were obviously of Hebrew extraction. The resemblance which many of the ceremonies and rites of the Indians bear the Jews. The similitude which existed between the Indians and the Hebrew moral law. The knowledge which the Mexicans and Peruvians listen, the Mexican and Peruvians, okay? Where I leave you? Hold on. The Mexicans and Peruvians, tradition supplied that the Indians possessed a history contained in the Pentateuch. The Mexican tradition of the Teomotzli, meaning the divine book of Moses, not Toltecs. I'll prove it in a little bit. The famous migration from Aztlan, otherwise Asia, the traces of Jewish history, traditions, laws, customs, and manners which are found in the Mexican paintings, the frequency of sacrifices among the Indians, and the religious consecrations of the blood and the fat of victims. The style of the style of architecture of their temples, the fringes which the Mexicans wore fastened their garments, the similitude and manner custom of the Indian tribes far removed from the central monarchies of Mexico and Peru to those of the Jews, which writers who were not Spaniards have noticed, such as celebrated Sir William Penn, who in a letter on the present state of America thus observed, these are their eyes are black like Jews, they reckon by the moons, they offer first fruits, they have a feast of tabernacle. You see that? That right there is what I thought about. Like, man, when you get away from the doctrines of the demons and you have nothing else left but to search for who you are, I'm not interested in TV or sports like I used to be. You know what I mean? I don't just kill time. Now I'm like, well, who am I? Who are we? And why does that matter? It damn should matter. It damn well better matter. Let me start closing some of these up because we don't need these now. So now let me bring you to this attention here. This is from, here, let me go back. Because again, it's about going back to who you are. I think that these nations are just simply going back to who they are. That's who they are. You got, certain nations acting the way they act, and that's who they are. Some express hate, some express, sexual deviancies. That's who they are. Some express war. That's all they want to do. That's who they are. They're going back to who they are. I'm going back to who I am. I think that's what we're at now. What else is left? Everything is now in question. Religion is in question. Science is in question. Like, even atheists don't even believe what they believe anymore. Now they don't even know what to argue about. They just go and argue about who's arguing more. The 10 tribes of Israel, it's called. Historically identified with the Aborigines in the Western Hemisphere. Mrs. Simmons. Right? We're going to go to page 63. Perfect. Right, man, right on spot. So again, I guess we're just going back to who we are. It says here on page 63 what the Meshiachas consider themselves. Matter of fact, I'll read it here to get to the point. God's promise to Jeremiah, "Thou shalt be as my mouth," was known to the Mexicans. God's promise to Jeremiah, "Thou shalt be as my mouth," was known to the Mexicas. Since the newly elected king of Mexico, in a prayer of thanksgiving to Tezcatlipoca, there emphatically says of kings in general, "There are thine instruments and thine image to govern thy kingdom, thou being in them and speaking from their mouth, and they declaring thy words." Just going back to who we are. I don't know about you, but I am. This is on page 158 of the same book. We'll come back to it in a little bit. It says here, we are naturally disposed to inquire that the Teomotzli or Motli the name of the divine book, which contained the history, mythology, calendar, and laws of the Toltecas. The word is compounded of teo, divine, amitl, papyrus, or motli, or mostly. For the Mexican language, Y and X frequently supplies the place of S, sh. So tli is devoid of meaning, but it is a general termination. Motli then appears to be Moses, when the sentence would be the divine book of Moses. It is necessary to observe that in the Mexican language, the compounding of words terminating in itli, which otherwise an illusion of those final letters frequently placed as in the word of acatl, which is compounded of atl and water and calle, a house. So again, the Teomotli or Motli was not the divine book of Toltecs, but the divine book of Moses.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
So again, what is it? Why is this important? Because when you think about everything that we have around us, even the material that some people claim it's theirs, and they're emphatic about it, like, oh no, this is our shit, blah blah blah. Some of us were like, I don't even want to look into that book. So look, let me do you the honors, family. Let me do you the honors to look into this material. So, I was fortunate to buy this book. And it cost me very little. Now it's like $4 or $5 grand. It didn't cost me that much. But it's cost that much because this is just the outside of it. But in the book itself, it's clean. Now, Unexpected Faces in Ancient America. This is the famous Wabo's book, right? This is how you consider erasure. You got to attack an individual from every angle for him to be confused. The more information you throw at them, the less time they have to have a critical thinking process. This is why they throw left and right shit at us. But you have to be stern, family, like a fucking thoroughbred horse. Like, just, you got visor and you're like, I hear you, brother, but I got a mission to get to. So check this. Why is this book important to them? I'll show you why. Because in this book, they also confirm what we're reading. This is why this book is important to them. You see, here he's suggesting the same thing that we're reading. The rise and fall of the Maya civilization. Right? He's talking about Mayas. They inclined to think ancestors of the classical Mayas were not very different from the white hybridized type, which are called Armenoid. Hook noses from Henry Field's Iranian plateau race. Right? Hook noses. This is interesting. Check it. The following page, look what they say in this book. It says, if Houdin is right, there are few to challenge him in the field of physical anthropology. It is an exciting thought that the Maya were, so to speak, second cousins once removed to the people such as Sumerians, who were busy erecting pyramids, developing astronomy, and adapting and expanding a high civilization about 3,000 years before the Maya. The Egyptians may have done so in the old world, but not for what we know. But for all we know to the contrary, the first pyramid builders and astronomers of the New World may have been long-headed group with no trace of hook, beaky noses. I would presume that there was none Maya group of Indians, perhaps long-headed, thinly scattered over the Maya area, perhaps more numerous in highlands. See what he's talking about? He's considering a phenotype. Check this out. Fundamentally, this analysis seems correct with the exception of the Bering Strait reference. For me, it is difficult to understand how such a distinguished Mayan scholar as Thompson can believe that a small band of early Mayans migrated over the Bering Strait as late as 1000 over 500 BC. In this context, we might recall, where's it at? Is this what I was looking for? Please don't tell me I took the picture of the wrong page. Oh my God, this is funny, family. I took the picture of the wrong page. I don't want to have to waste my time taking a picture of it. Let me see if I can find a copy. If I can't find a copy, I'm going to move on that one. My bad, fam. In this book, the whole point of me showing you this page from this book is that it talks about the Semitic relationship between the Mayas and the Israelites. That's really what I wanted to get to. That was the point of me showing you this book. I don't know why I took the wrong pictures, or I might have uploaded the wrong ones. I don't want to have to go back and take pictures of it now because I want to get to this class. Here's my point. Here's my point that I'm trying to make. So while we know what we read and we see history, right? So if this is us, right? Is it no wonder now in the very same book? Is it no wonder this had to be done? Check this out. Is it no wonder? This is from page 7 of the 10 tribes of Israel identified by Barbara Simmons. Look at what they do to this guy. Sagahun first further complains that he was forcibly deprived of the very valuable painting representing the great temple with the cord by which it was surrounded, which he says was sent to Spain. It is very evident that everything in Mexico, calculated to draw attention to the ancient history of the country, more specifically, if connected with religious recollections, recollecting, was carefully removed from notice immediately after the conquest. Pieces of sculptures were mutilated and buried. Paintings were burned. Temples and edifices, which from their size was impossible to destroy, were suffered to fall into oblivion. And magnificent monuments of ancient art, such as the temples of Palenque and the palaces of Mitlan, were passed unnoticed by Spanish authors. Sagahun, when engaged in the compilation of his history after it had been taken away from him and again restored, received 3 cautions. First, to write nothing to prove that the Hebrews had colonized the New World. Secondly, to be guarded in what he saw of the devils having imitated God in taking himself a chosen people in the New World and counterfeiting the rites and ceremonies of the Jews. Basically saying, don't write about anybody supposedly being a Jew here. Don't write about anybody keeping the commandments of the so-called Jews here. It's more likely it's because the devil confused these people and told them they're the real Jews and they're not. Thirdly, not to advance a hypothesis that Christianity had ever been proclaimed to the Indians, or to treat too largely in the history of Quetzalcoatl. You hear this there? Do you see this now? It says here, let me see. The Biblioteca de Pinelo, a work, the express object of which was to illustrate the history of America, by extracts formed in reference to valuable and unpublished MS preserved in the most famous libraries in Spain, and the public archives, especially those of Semancos, to which the author, through the interest of the Duke of Medina de las Torres, obtained access, exists only in their epitome. Only in a epitome. What is? I'll look up the word in a bit. And of a larger work, a learned writer has observed, not a leaf has been found. Garcia's history of Peruvian monarchy is also unknown. Sejuanza's Mexican cyclography is stated to have been lost through the negligence of his heirs, and many other interesting works are said to have perished or have been lost in a similar manner. That should not be surprising to you guys. Why do I say that? Because look, check this out. This is from a Lutheran newsletter. I've showed you guys this before. Look at the date. You can see it. Look at the date. I want you guys to pay attention to the date. September 7th, 1900. Okay? This was in 1900. So you don't see, I'm not BSing you guys. Why does this matter? Check this out. Just like Segahun was told, do not write anything. Don't write anything about who we are. Don't write anything about what we know who we are. Nothing. Nothing. Not a damn thing. Okay? Check this out. Hold on a second, family. Check this out. Be mindful of what I'm about to show you right this very moment. It says Dr. Francis and Borton relates the following about the first Bible printed in Mexico. About the first Bible printed in Mexico. It says here, the printing press came to Mexico in 1539. For in that year, there was printed in Mexico in Spanish a brief compendium of the Christian doctrine. For you guys that don't know, what this is the Ave Maria, Padre Nuestro, Diez Mandamientos, Rosario, El Credo. That's what it is. That's the Christian compendium, and that's all you could learn to read and write. It says here, the briefing compendium of Christian doctrine under the spouse of the famous Bishop Fray Juan de Zumarraga. That was just 81 years before the Mayflower brought the first pilgrims to the Plymouth Bay. From 1539 and 1810, when the immortal Hidalgo raised the cry of Mexican independence, and during the 271 years of Spanish rule or misrule of Mexico, Spain not only did not give Mexico a Bible, but sternly prohibited the publication of any part of the sacred scriptures in the language of the Mexican people. The prohibition is still in force with regard to the painting of the Bible in any of the, hold on, check this out, any of the 52 different languages and dialects spoken in Mexico today. The first edition of the Bible in Mexico was printed in Latin and in Spanish in Mexico City in 1831 through 1833. Now that's about 70 years earlier. And people still weren't allowed to read and like the Bible. You know what I'm saying? It appeared in 25 volumes, which with an atlas, and cost over $200, so that it still remained a prohibited book to the great majority of the people. See this here? For 350 years, the Mexican press has been at work on the lives of saints, on catechisms, on the silliest, most vapid and mortal tales in Spanish, and taken from the Italian and French. But the Bible is today unknown book to Mexico among the majority of the people. See this? So why is this important? Now, you guys saw Zumarraga. Oh, he was proud of this. This is from the Mexican pyramids. Look at this guy. In Spain, Juan de Zumarraga had been ordered by the Emperor Charles V to exterminate the witches of Navarre, which he did by burning thousands of them in his stake. Now, we were the witches, by the way. The caciques, the elders, the ones that, actually knew the law, understanding of our history. That's who the witches were. Appointed Bishop of Mexico, he boasted of having destroyed 500 Indian temples, 20,000 idols. On Sunday, November 30, 1530, Zumarraga had Don Carlos Ometotzitzin, Lord of Texcoco, publicly burned at the stake in Mexico City. Plaza Mayor, accused of having worshipped the god of rain. Familiars of the Holy Office had found 2 temples hidden in his palace. During the trial, he developed that Indian covertly resorted to their old religious practices of inducing the powers of nature when the rain fell, much as was successfully accomplished by Dr. William Reich, last name interesting, in the United States in 1950, for which the satisfied blueberry grower Maine paid him with money, whereas the U.S., I don't know where that went, cause of life. Let me see this. In the marketplace of Texcoco, Zumarraga had a pyramid formed of the documents of the Aztec history, just like Hitler. Knowledge and literature, their paintings, manuscripts, hieroglyphics, written, all writings, all of which he committed to the flames while the natives cried and prayed. Into the Holocaust went the codices laws of the Texcoco's kings Netzahualcoyotl, forefather Don Fernando de Alva. I'm not going to try to say his name. Who had gained in Texcoco a century before the arrival of Cortez, and had acquired the reputation of a Solomon distinguished for his courage, wisdom, and virtue. A refined astronomer and lover of plants and animals, who had composed 60 hymns in praise of the Creator of heaven. You see who was enjoying this right here? He made sure to destroy everything about us. That's why Sagahun was upset. Says not a leaf has been found. All of these writers were basically like through negligence supposedly, or told do not write anything about Christianity being here. That was Sumarraga's demands because he had the power to do so. He was also the one that gave us the Virgin Mary, which is why this book is so important. This is from, let me see what the name of the book is called. Give me a second. Oh, that's right. I don't have I changed my phone, family. I got to update this new one. I showed you guys this book before. Check this out. Falsedad de la aparición de la Virgen de Guadalupe. Oof, that's going to hurt some people's feelings, but it's true. That shit is not real. The Virgen de Guadalupe is a fake-ass Christian doctrine. Todos los autores que tratan de la aparición dicen los católicos mexicanos convienen de que el desplegar Juan Diego su tilma de sentido común, la nación de frailes, pues lo natural era que el indio desplegara su capa enseñando las flores y no dejándolas caer. El plebeyo de Tolpetlac estaba instruido para dejar caer las flores y enseñar que lo pintado iba en el ayate, lo pintado. Lo que dicen que la Virgen dio a Juan Diego como prueba de que era madre de Dios fueron las flores, y ni el indio hizo que Sumarraga fijara su atención a ellas, ni el obispo les manifestó aprecio. Lo interesante para el fraile Sumarraga fue presentar la imagen que había inventado como venida de los cielos. You guys can, if you really want to get this book, I'll show you guys which one it is. On page 51, look what it says. Los españoles no creyeron en lo que dijo Juan Diego respecto a la aparición, ni tampoco en lo que expresaba Juan Bernardino, porque para ellos los indios eran seres irracionales o judíos, y se necesitaba que el Papa Pablo III los sacara de su error por medio de su breve de 10 de julio de 1537, en el cual declaró que los indios eran seres humanos lo mismo que los conquistadores. Now, check this out. These guys were saying that, they don't believe that Juan Diego had that image on him anyways, because, check this out. It says here, la causa que los indios fueron tan maltratados por los españoles era la etimología de la palabra judíos. Basically, they're saying this here, without having to, read all of that. It says here, la vuelta a la N, y podemos azotar a los indios y exigirles todo el dinero que se puede, porque son hermanos de los que crucificaron a Jesucristo. You see this right here? They're saying that the reason why you're getting an ass whooping is because you're related to the Meshiach himself. And they're accusing you, or us supposedly, of his death. Now you have to understand. Now you really have to come to the conclusion, like, wait, hold on a second. They've been writing this for quite some time? Yes. They've been writing this for quite some time. We looked at the Lutheran newsletter, Mexican pyramids, unexpected faces, Gazetteer of Old and New, Sumarraga material. I've given you guys some heavy duty stuff. If you don't want to listen, or, at this point, well, I don't know what to tell you. This is from, I've showed you guys the book before, The Nexus, This is another one I have, which, again, I've been holding back for quite some time, but hey, I think it's time to start showing these things. A study in the Hebrew and the Indian language. We're going to go to page 8. Check this out. Hold on a second. Is it here? Give me a second, family. I thought I had it here. No, come on, bro. Okay, it's coming up. Check this out. There's several words that sound similar. Look at this. Shem, name of an Indian chief. Shem was the name of an Indian chief who at one time lived in St. George, Utah. Shem, famed, renowned. We know who that is. I'm trying to look for this other one, family. Give me a second here. I want to just get to it. Come on, way. ¿Dónde estás? Come on. There was no way. It was somewhere over here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There it goes. Pendejo. Okay, so Yucatan. Concerning the derivation of the name Yucatan, we are informed in the whatever that all agree that the name Yucatan originated from the misunderstanding by the Spaniards of the words first pronounced by the natives when questioned about the name of their country. However, it is safe to say that if the Indians gave the name of their country either correctly or incorrectly when the Spaniards inquired about it, the reply must have sounded in the ears of questioners very much like Yucatan. In Hebrew, it's uk-katan. The first of the words means to be pressed, and katan is little or small. It's compounded form of two words in ukatan or Yucatan, right? So to speak. Yeah, it says that, but it also says it different. Joe, let me see. Yam, Juta, Jata. Juta are close variants of one another. Juta or Jukta or Jakba or Jukan or Juktan. You see what I'm saying? Juktan. You also have to remember Jaktan, Juktan, Juta, right? Now, I did a class on the land of Ophir. You can look it up, and they do have a map, and I showed it that it actually considers this land Ophir. Some people want to say that Yucatan, Utah, Judah, that's why it's an old world, but there's so much to question in that. But anyways, that's another example. So again, why is this important to know? Well, because if they're trying to tell us, I mean, okay, for example, when you go to the, I don't know, what's that channel? The History Channel? They're telling us who we are, right? Oh, the Mayas, they came from the space. The Mayas came from space. Supposedly. So what I'm doing is I'm just going back to who I am. Spiritually speaking, that's what it's asking for, family. And you should be also concerned about who you are. That's what it should be. You should be concerned about who you are. You should go back into history and actually really, really dig deep into who you are according to the Bible. Because we've already been introduced to a couple of Jesuses. Here's the first one.
If Jesus was here right now, would you let him in?
Of course I would.
Why?
As long as he went through the proper, as long as he came here legally. As long as Jesus Christ came to this country, we would let him in. Thank you. No.
If Jesus was here right now, would you let him in?
Of course I would.
Why?
As long as he went through the proper, as long as he came here legally. As long as Jesus Christ came to this country.
See that, family? So the GOP Jesus, the GOP Jesus says, as long as Jesus comes to this country legally, he would have been accepted. That's what they asked. Check this out. Look. Check this out.
If Jesus was here right now, would you let him in? Of course I would. Why?
As long as he went through the proper, as long as
he came here legally.
He came here legally. Oh shit! Here's their GOP Jesus, bro. I mean, seriously.
Truly,
look. This is the same type of people that came from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, claiming that their Christianity is real and true, and that they are love the brethren, and blah blah blah, and that the laws are done away with. But then all of a sudden, now you know what I mean. They put the sword on your neck and say, "You better believe." Very confusing religion. Listen, this is the joke, but it's true though. Let's check it.
I say unto you, whoever welcomes one of these little ones in my name might be letting in a murderer or a drug. Let's get her to a detention center, till we can figure out what's going on. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. And behold, now I'm all lazy and entitled. You shouldn't have done that. Do unto others as you suspect they might want to do unto you. What is a man profited if he gain the whole world but lose his soul? A lot. He has profited a lot. One soul for the whole world, that is an amazing deal. Why do you look at the speck of dust in your brother's eye but ignore the plank in your own? Because of her emails. Yes. If a man strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him and shoot him. That is the law. If you want to be perfect, go. Sell all the possessions that you have and give the money to a solid mutual fund. By this, they will know that you are my disciples. That you say, Merry Christmas! Christmas! That's my name in there, and I put it in there because I wanted it in there so we could all celebrate Big Boy Jesus' birthday time. Okay? Okay.
Rabbi, surely you can heal me.
My child, of course I could. But who would pay for it?
What? I don't understand. I don't have any money.
Yes, it is a sad story, but it does not make me responsible. It is super duper easy for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. The richer, the better, really. Maybe get a solid gold house, just to be sure. Love your neighbor as yourself. Unless you are better than your neighbor, then tell them that they're weird and you do not want to bake them a cake. You have heard it said, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say to you, any man who looks upon a woman with lust in his heart should go ahead and do what he's gotta do.
Lord, your followers grow hungry and we have only this fish and bread.
Oh, sweet.
This is funny, bro. I thought this was a fun. This is.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
You have a clever way of rejecting God's laws in order to uphold your own teachings. Very clever way. Well, that's one of them. And then we also have this other one too. You know what I mean? And again, it's not about hurting people's feelings, man. It's just a real fact. It's like when you base things on certain doctrines, that's when things get confusing. You cannot get confused. We cannot get confused, especially at this point.
Jesus isn't black. To say it again, Jesus isn't black. Ty, what about the book of Revelation? It says that his hair is like wool. Correction. It says his head and his hair were white like wool. But Ty, when you go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, it says that his hair is woolly. Correction. That's the Father. But Ty, the Bible says that Jesus and the Father, they look alike. I'm happy you brought that up. Revelation 1:15 says his feet were like polished bronze refined in a furnace. Ty, that's not the King James Version. The King James Version below says like brass. But Book of Revelation wasn't written in King James English. It was written in Koine Greek. So let's go to Koine Greek. The Greek word that's used is a word I'm not even going to try to pronounce. And its definition is burnished bronze. Means or a calcum or a fine metal or frankincense of a yellow color. So right here it tells you directly it's of a yellow color. It has orichalcum, so let's go see what color that is. Orichalcum, right here, of a yellow color. This would have been the color of Jesus. You really want to get detailed with DNA and genealogy? Abraham had 2 boys, Ishmael and Isaac. Through Isaac came the Jews and came Yeshua. Ishmael came a lot of the Arab nation. So Arabs and Jews, they're cousins. Jesus would have been more of the color of Arabs than African American black. What do you know? This is the same color as orichalcum. See, right here. So Yeshua, he would not have been European white, but he wouldn't have been African black. He would have looked Middle Eastern. He is Middle Eastern. When you idolize your own skin color due to insecurities or different other things, you start thinking this is Jesus, and that ain't Jesus. It's like this isn't Jesus. Listening to the black Hebrew Israelites is going to get a lot of people in hell. The color of Jesus doesn't even matter anyways. People think that if they're the same color as Jesus, they get brownie points. No, you don't. The color of Jesus that gets us brownie points is red, the color of his blood. I've been debunking the black Hebrew Israelites all day, and I'm going to keep doing it. I might roll over into March. Before you say I'm lying, I mean, it's right here. You're going to say this is wrong? Well, yeah, because that... No. This is what it was written in. This is what John wrote. And I'm going to be looking at my comment section to see how many of you still try to take on the prideful stance that, well, the Bible didn't mean that. No, it says that. Those of you that's not offended and you want to keep watching my content, hit follow for more. If you're offended, still hit follow for more, because I still got you with the teachings. Deadline's about a week away. My wife and I are doing a 3-day class teaching.
So again, it's about being strong and well-rooted. So as you get questions, you don't question yourself. That's the last thing you want to do right now at this very moment, is to start questioning yourself. So let me repeat this once more before we move on to some scriptures. Page 63, it says here, God's promise to Jeremiah, thou shalt be as my mouth was known to the Mexicas, since the newly elected king of Mexico, in a prayer of thanksgiving to Tezcatlipoca, there emphatically says of kings in general, they are thine instruments, and thine image to govern thine kingdom, thou being in them, and speaking from their mouth, and they declaring thy word. So, which is the reason why I did the intro the way I did it. Which is the reason why I did the intro the way I did. Who are these people? Where did they come from? Why are they claiming to do or to be the things that they claim to be? When we now put questions to mind, now all of a sudden things don't add up. When you start digging in your own history, you find out, wait a minute, hold on a second, man, I've been lied to. You've been lied to twice already, 3 times you could say, almost. Shame on you now if you want to be lied to again. Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. So this is the time where now I can see where I guess you could, maybe the unity is becoming, I don't know, some of you guys had to feel some pain. Apparently, some of you guys had to feel some pain. And that's why you also have to be mindful of who you listen to, and what they're saying and talking about. Because if you don't give yourself time to get to know certain people, you'll trust and believe they'll toss you back and forth. Check out what the Most High says. Job 4:17. You got to be mindful of these things. Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. So you mean his servants are not perfect? Yes, you damn right. You mean his angels have, issues? Yes, they do. Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. Much less in them that dwell in the house of clay. So that's why we cannot be boastful in this walk. Oh, you mess with me, the Most High deals with them. Bro, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, it clearly even says in the New Testament, it talks about like, hey, we have power over these demons. And the Messiah is like, yo, don't be boasting about that. Just be happy that you can repent. Never get ahead of yourself. How much less than them that dwell in the house of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. So he's got servants, he's got angels. They're not perfect, not at all. And the gathering does happen. It is occurring. I can see it. But it had to be done a certain way. I'm glad that maybe this is what it had to take. Before we get into full scriptures, let's watch this video real quick so I can get going on it. Check this out. Let me see if I could, should I do it? No, let me just wait on it. Let's go to Job 33. Okay, let me wait on that real quick. Let me go Job 33, verse 13. Watch what it says. Why dost thou strive against him? For he giveth not account of any of his matters. Check this out, family. A lot of times the Most High gives us instructions. We should know better on how to do things. Right? And we don't pay attention, which is why the more you examine yourself, the more cleansed you are, the more opportunity you have to listen to his words as the message comes. For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth not. In a dream, in a vision of the night. So God here, he says, hey, psst. Hey, yo, hey, psst. Once, twice, and he perceiveth not. We're so caught up in our own demise, our own clods, our own shit, that we don't listen to what the instructions are. In a dream, in a vision of night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumbering of the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instructions. A lot of times we are told exactly what we should be doing that day. Yet we don't listen. And that applies to me too. I should have done this class a long time ago. But again, supposedly I was busy. Zephaniah 2:1, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. That's the purpose behind it. Like, here's why. I'll give you one example of why that's important. Why is that important? Check this out. I found this to be very interesting. I thought it was a great example on what
at Lamps Plus
what the issue is with us. Check this out. A second. This cartoon. I was talking to a brother about this the other day. I'm going to play it this way because I don't want to get blocked or anything. Check this out. This is the interesting message here. I'm going to speed it up real quick so you can see what we're talking about. Okay, this is a movie called The Bug's Life, A Bug's Life. These locusts, they punk the ants and punk them for food every season because they're bigger than them, right? But the ants don't realize that even though they're smaller, they're like the sand of the sea. You get it? Pay attention to the message, family.
There was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant. One ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss. They're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this brain is a puny little ant.
See, that's just one ant. No big deal. That's just one ant. Let's go.
Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
Well, how about this?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And
those puny little ones do not. Listen, we are a lot more than them. The moment you guys start waking up to the truth of who you are.
if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay? There was.
That's important, family. It's important to listen to those messages. That's a great movie, bro. Cartoons have a lot of messages, man. They have a lot of messages. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 13. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place, in the wrath of the lords of the host, and in the days of his fierce anger. And it shall be as a chase roe, and as a sheep that no man take it up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. There's that time is now at hand. Because I know you guys know what's going on in this society. I know that you cannot be this blind. There's no way that you can be this blind. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find this video. The 6 stages. Check this out. Because once your glory disappears, once your religion can't answer the questions, what it's left? Hope? On what? Your God ain't working no more. Where's the white Jesus at answering these questions? How come this great country of mine it's in debauchery? Please, God, help us. No. You see, you believed in the man too much than in the believe who you are. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 5. Thus say the Lord God, cursed be the man that trusted in man and maketh flesh his arms, whose heart departed from the Lord. You trusted more in this government, and now your religion is in question. Now inflation's hit it. Now you realize, now you know Walmart is never going to be back again. 99-cent stores are done. Your eggs are way over 15, 14 bucks.
Sir John Glubb analysed the life cycle of empires. He found remarkable similarities between them all. An empire lasts about 250 years, or 10 generations, from the early pioneers to the final conspicuous consumers who become a burden on the state. 6 ages define the lifespan of an empire. The age of pioneers, the age of conquests, the age of commerce, the age of affluence, the age of intellect, ending with bread and circuses in the age of decadence. There are common features to every age of decadence. An undisciplined, overextended military, the conspicuous display of wealth, a massive disparity between rich and poor, a desire to live off a bloated state, and an obsession with sex. But perhaps the most notorious trait of all is the debasement of the currency. The United States and Great Britain both began on a gold or silver standard, long since abandoned. Rome was no different.
Rome was no different. You see, it's back at it all over again. This is literally what the Bible is talking about. This is why Christianity can't answer any questions. This is why you guys don't believe in this book. You think it's like metaphoric, hypothetical, I don't know, philosophical. Ecclesiastes 1:9, the thing that had been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done, it is that which shall be done, and there's no new thing under the sun. The thing that has been, it is that which shall be, meaning what you see now is going to happen again. And that which is done, it is that which shall be done, and what is currently going on. Like, again, it's going to repeat itself once again. There's no new thing under the sun at all. Now, I will say this to some of you guys who, for whatever reason, I don't know why you wish upon this. I hope that you don't wish upon the end like this. I don't wish upon the end. I see things occur showing me, but man, Amos 5:18, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? You have no idea what that day is going to look like. The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. It's just not a joke, man. Scary stuff. I don't want to be, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to say I don't want to be part of it, but it's just, I can't imagine what scary situation you would encounter when you see something like that. Oh, man. I don't know. To me, it's, I don't know.
This is the lost.
I could say that, yeah, vengeance is of the Lord. Yeah, but still, you know, people will suffer that day. People will suffer that day. Now, just like we have the decadence, we also see the decadence. We see the decadence in government. We see the decadence in the religions. Right? They're GOP Jesus, right? We know what that's about. We get it. We see it. That's not something that should confuse you guys anymore. Now let's explore their so-called religion. Because, you know, these white nationalists, Christmas Christians, they talk a big game. Let's go through the Bible real quick. Find out what they're about. Because, to be quite frank with you, even the Old Testament keepers, right? Like I don't even know what they believe, to be honest. They claim to not believe in the New Testament, but they go and bring up Enoch. Matter of fact, here I have the link here. Here it goes, right there. Enoch. They bring up Enoch. Now I find it interesting because in this book of Enoch, it mentions somebody that they claim it's not real. Enoch chapter 46 says this: "There I beheld the Ancient of Days, whose head was like the white wool, by the way, and with him another, whose countenance resembled that of a man. His countenance was full of grace, like that of one of the holy angels. Then I inquired of one of the angels who went with me, and he showed me every secret thing concerning the Son of Man, who he was, whence he was, and why he accompanied the Ancient of Days." Okay, so you're seeing this right here, right? He answered and said to me, "This is the Son of Man, to whom righteousness belongs, with whom righteousness has dwelt, and who will reveal all the treasures of that which is concealed. For the Lord of Spirit had chosen him, and his portion has surpassed all before the Lord of Spirits in everlasting uprightness. This Son of Man, whom thou beholdest, shall rise up kings, and the mighty from their couches, and the powerful from their thrones. They shall loosen the bridles of the powerful and break in pieces the teeth of the sinners." Oof. "He shall hurl kings from their thrones and the dominions." Here he says he's going to raise up kings and the mighty from their couches, and the powerful from their thrones, and shall loosen the bridles of the powerful and break in pieces the teeth of the sinners. He shall hurl kings from their thrones and their dominions, because they will not exalt and praise him, nor humble themselves before him, by whom their kingdom were granted to them. The countenance likewise of the mighty shall he cast down, filling them with confusion. Darkness shall be their habitation, and worms shall be their bed. Nor from that their bed shall they hope to be again raised, because they exalted not the name of the Lord of Spirits. So when I look back and I think of what is going to become and what this scripture talks about, I don't go into these important historical material books, I should say, not material, but historical books, and think that I know what I'm talking about. I study this with caution. And brothers that talk to me know what I'm talking about. Matthew 25:31, "When the Son of Man, once again, shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as the shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on the right hand, but the goats on the left." Separating sheep from goats. that's not just going to be at the end. It's happening now. I believe it is happening right now within us, because guess what? When he takes away your doctrine, what are you left with? What are you just going to go back to the old ways? No. Once you're woken up, like there's no going back. You got to go forward now. You got to keep chugging it away, bro. You got to keep trucking. Psalm 78:52 says, but made him his own people to go forth like sheep and guide them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them on safely so that they feared not, but the sea overwhelmed their enemies. Then it says, and he brought them to the borders of the sanctuary, even to his mountain, with his right hand had purchased. He cast out the heathen also before them and divided them in inheritance by line and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. So he's calling upon us already. Separate yourselves from these particular doctrines, which is why Hosea 10 talks about getting rid of your clods, breaking that fallow ground. The only way you can connect with what we're looking at is if you get rid of your sins. It even says in Psalms, 2 Ezra 16:72, I believe, it talks about, as a matter of fact, let's go to it. Because this is what Paul was talking about in regards to examining yourself, making sure you get rid of all of that shit. Because the time will come when you're going to have to answer these questions. And there won't be any time. And at that moment, it's too late. It says, 2 Ezra 16:77, will be unto them that are bound with their sins. What is being bound with your sins? Not being reborn again, not being a new creature, not letting go of your old ways, still really going back and saying, you ask the Most High to help you, cleanse you, and then you kind of want those back. Woe be to them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes. Why? And the path thereof covered with thorns. Why? Like in LA, when the fire comes and you got 100-mile-an-hour winds, everything burns, that no man may travel through. It is left undressed and cast into the fire to be consumed therewith. It's the same concept. By that time, it's too late. So before you guys go and assume and doubt and question and say, I don't believe it, bro, you better study. 2 Ezra 13:25, this is the meaning of the vision. Whereas thou sawest the man coming up from the midst of the sea, the same is he whom God the highest kept a great season, by which his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas thou sawest that it was the mouth of their and whereas thou sawest out of his mouth there came a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. What is this talking about? And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. Who is this he? What are we talking about here? Let's go back to verse 3. And I beheld, and lo, the man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. The problem with Christianity is they rewrote who this Meshiach was. They made him look soft and simple and lovable, but yet they don't even practice what they preach. We just saw the GOP Jesus. These evangelicals claiming that the Christians and they love everybody, but white people must be in first place, always and forever. Or the other religion. The only way that you can make it into the kingdom is if your dad was black. One from the caucus of hell and the other one from the Hamitic regions. Which one is it? No, I'm going to stick to the script. I'm not going to be a respecter of people. I'm going to study, and I'm going to make sure that I can at least try to break down this book as best as I can, because after translation and transliteration, there's a lot of questions in mind. But remember, his sheep hear his voice. Luke 4:16, and he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue of the Sabbath day and stood up to read. By the way, shalom for you guys that keep the Sabbath on Fridays and Saturdays. Hopefully this is an edifying day. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophets Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he had anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. Us people. Being poor is when you don't have the riches of what is given to you. This is the riches of what is given to you. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. Broken from what? From your history, being separated from who you are according to this book, to preach deliverance to the captive. Because as long as you still think that you're just, I don't know, some mushroom that came out of nowhere, then you're still captive to the ways of the Caucasoids. And recovering the sight of the blind, when you don't see yourself in this book, to set at liberty them that are bruised. You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? To preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Now, the acceptable year is that end. That's the acceptable year. That end right there. That's why Proverbs 1:23 specifically says this to you, brothers and sisters. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. The only way you do it is if you are willing to get corrected. This walk is lonely, family. I'm going to be real with you. A lot of you got, we got to get a congregation that starts tonight and dandy and all, but this walk is lonely. This walk is lonely. Turn at my reproof. Who is your relationship with? The Most High. How do you find him? You examine yourself. And how do you examine yourself? Every single day you peel that layer of BS in you. You gotta really reflect and look back into the work. That's the only thing that matters now. To be able to go back and reflect on the work. Because if you can't reflect on those things, then guess what? You're gonna be stuck. And you're leaving like the bushes that never been trimmed or cut. And like the example of LA. When the fires came and the wind blew, everything was burnt. Everything was burnt. Everything was burnt. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you, and I will make known my words unto you. But it doesn't just occur because you think you're Hebrew, or because supposedly you believe in Jesus, because some Christian religion told you so. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that at all. Check this out. John 14:15. Let me go to this real quick. John 14:15. Since we're on that subject. If you love me, keep my commandments. Now we know GOP Jesus don't do that. We know GOP Jesus don't do that. They don't keep the commandments of God. They're selective about it, but they don't keep them completely. And I will pray the Father, and he should give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it is not seen. Because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and he shall be in you. Which is why I keep saying, you want to get to know the Most High? Examine yourself if you're in the faith. That's why it says, examine yourself if you are in the faith. What is being in the faith? Being in that spirit, in that spirit, in that anointed spirit. That's why the Messiah talked about. We all are Messiah, and not like him, but you can all be in that perfection. Meaning cleansing your ways, not having to sin willfully or unwillfully, being subject to the skin, to the flesh. Because that's really what the whole diamond-shaped concept is: the mind, the spirit, and the flesh. That's the concept. If you can control, if you can harness your spirit. Now, how's the scripture? It says, I think it's in, hold on. I think it's in Proverbs. Proverbs 6:23, I think. No. Let's see. Hold on. Well, let me see. Pondered. Hold on a second. Let me see. Maybe it's Proverbs 24. Let's see. Let's see. Nestles. Hold on a second. I think I remember now. Here he goes. There he goes. That's it. Proverbs 24:30. Check this out. Pay attention to this. I went by the field of a slothful, and by the vineyard of a man void of understanding. So think about your yourself as a building, right? And obviously you own this building, you're supposed to take care of it. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instructions. So what is Solomon talking about here? When a man is not well treated, he's not treating himself well. When he's destroyed, you'll see the nettles and thorns all over him. You will see that by his actions, by the way he takes care of his people or his friendship or his wife or his children. That's how you start seeing who they are. Now, the scripture talks about also that if you don't, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? No, not oh man, what's that word I'm looking for? Let's see if I can find it. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, it's regarding not bushes. Give me a second. Let me try to remember. Not walls. There's another word for it. Let me see if I can. Oh man, there's so many words in spirit. It's gonna be hard for me to find it. Can't find it. Let me see if I can try to remember. Matter of fact, let me go back. Maybe I'll remember. Let me go back to John. John 14, 15, 16, 15 through 17. It says, if ye love me, keep the commandments. Keep the commandments. When Solomon sees this so-called man in his building, and he's not kept up, all full of nettles and thorns, he's not keeping the laws. Nor is he practicing them in his mind, nor is he ever thinking of them. He's just living lawlessly. You know, you're not guarding your spirit. So once again, if you guard your spirit and you examine yourself, meaning you examine your mind, you'll know the patterns of thoughts. You'll understand how your mind likes to play tricks on you, like that trap song. Then you'll be able to block your flesh from overcoming those thoughts, which then can affect your spirit. It works like that, fam. It's not that complicated. Job 2:28. Check this out. Is it Job? Joel. Sorry, my bad. Joel 2:28. Joel 2:28. Let me see here real quick. It says here, and it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. Verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. Watch this. Verse 29, and also upon the servants and upon the handmaids and those that I will pour out my spirit. So he's talking about also servants and handmaids. Does that give them the right to teach? Not necessarily. But there will be some people out there, man. Remember how the scriptures talk about the head. First is the Most High, then the Messiah, then the man, then the woman, then the children. It's the same thing regarding nations. First is his chosen, and then everybody else. Just the way things are. Now, if you don't accept that, well, then then you're going to go back to Christianity. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it great here and have it great up there, so to speak. Luke 4:18, right? It says here, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he had anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. Who is the poor right now? You that were taking the scriptures from. We saw an example of who we were according to history, and we got people from other nations did everything possible to destroy our codices, our buildings, our clothing, our memory, our parents, everything, basically, our food. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captive, and recovering the sight of the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. This is why when you read the New Testament, you gotta not get stuck with Christian mind, with Christian glasses. Romans 10:14 says, "How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? How shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher?" A lot of us wonder that. How are we going to know? How are we going to know? Matthew 28. I think I write down the right one. It says here, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." Supposedly, this is what Christians, all they do is just, that's what they brought, right? That it was enough. Christianity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that should be enough. That should be enough. That's what they brought. Did they bring real valuable teachings to the so-called poor? How long have they been here? Since 1492. Has it changed? Has it? Officially? Because all I've ever heard of from GOP Jesus is just unrighteous decrees. Isaiah 10:10-1. "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievous which they have prescribed." What kind of laws are these evangelicals passing? Deport them all. As long as they're white, deport them all. Because that's what they want. I mean, they brought this whole so-called John 3:16. God loves everybody. Right? That's what they did. They brought John 3:16 to us. John 3:16 said this. It says, John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life." That's what they brought. What does the scripture say? "Believe not every spirit." Beloved, believe not every spirit, it says. "But try the spirit, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world." You see this? It's our job to listen, pay attention, study, and apply. If it doesn't make sense, you should know better than that. Now, at this point of our lives, we should know better. We should know better. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. It says, "For thy time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they keep to themselves teachers having itchy ears." That's why I say, even when you listen to this channel, like, bro, make sure you confirm what I say. Don't believe me completely. Check it, confirm it. Just for your own benefit. If you don't confirm it and you just assume that I'm 100% correct, guess what? You're just a respecter of person. And you're doing yourself a disservice. And that's not what we're about here. Right. As a matter of fact, I was going to read that next, bro. Because that's totally against the scripture. Basically, they said they believe this. They said they believed it. Right? It goes against everything they're preaching right now. John 3:15 says this. It says here, "Whosoever hated his brother is a murderer, and ye know that no murderer had eternal life abiding in him." Now, why are we using hated his brother? Oh, so now you guys are brothers? Well, hey, that's what Christianity teaches, that we're brethren. That's what Christianity brought to our attention. They said that you guys came from afar, and you said that, hey, Jesus said that we're supposed to love everybody, and that, God loves, all. All you got to do is worship in his name, and that's it. 2 Timothy 4:3, "For that time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but at their own lust they shall heap themselves teachers having itchy ears. Give me a second, family. I used to have this background song, and now they took it away. Apparently, I might have played it too much, so now they charge. Just really, this is stupid. Give me a second. Oh, this dies away. Oh, give me a second. Let me see the drums, I think. I think this is it. Yep. It says, the time will come where they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust they shall heap to themselves teachers having itchy ears, and they shall turn away the ears from the truth and shall be turned into fables, which is what we see. Which is what we see. But watch thou in all things, not in some, not in the things that favor your feelings or emotions. In all things, endure affliction, do the work of the evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry. Like I said earlier, a lot of times, man, I don't want to do this, bro. But you know what? I thought about the brethren that were like, you know what? We keep Sabbath on Friday and Saturday, and that was like, bro, they keep it. Just do one real quick. That's really why I did it. Jeremiah 7:8. I wasn't thinking of myself, to be honest with you, family. I was being selfish earlier. I was being selfish. I wasn't thinking of y'all. I was thinking of myself. Sorry. And then it's like, yo, do the class, man. You gotta tick this topic. Jeremiah 7:8. Behold, ye trust in lying words that cannot profit. Would ye steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after the other gods when ye know not? That's Christianity right there. Commit adultery, murder, swear falsely, pedophilia. That happens in the churches. We know that. We know priests take advantage of young girls. That's murder. You rape them. You may not kill them, but you rape them. You took the spirit away of a child. Their innocence. That's what happens in these rooms. That's what that religion brought to the effect. You stole lands. You stole houses. You renamed things. And come and stand before me in his house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these things, all these abominations. You said you came from afar, and that the papal bull gave you the authority to convert heathen into Christians. But you want to know something, family? And I don't necessarily blame them completely, because guess what? Proverbs 21:16 says this. He says that the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding, meaning his laws and ways and wisdom, shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Well, if we fell for the okie doke, we're still doing it. Some of you guys still believe that Christianity is real. Like, nah, man, no, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bible says this. No, it don't, bro. Matthew 22:32. Look at this. This is right here close to red letters, okay? Matter of fact, it's in red letters. I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. Woo! Everybody that's outside of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is dead. Proverbs 21:16 says, the man that walketh out of the way of the understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Here it says, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So he has no interest in you others. But again, it all goes back to show what exactly is it that these Christians are trying to teach. Because once more, we know they told us themselves, God did away with the laws. Proverbs 1:22 says this. She cried in the chiefs of a place of concourse. And wait, hold on. Is this it? I don't think that was the one I wanted. Let me skip that one for now. Proverbs 4:2, it says here, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. Take heed to thyself, Be careful, be mindful. That's why it says is 1 Timothy 4:16. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt be both save thyself and them that hear thee. This is why I also check my work. This is why I don't just blur out stuff. I make sure that I know what I'm talking about and that I believe in what I'm saying. Because it's not easy. This walk of self-examination is a very hard and lonely walk. Because it happens it's like every day you like reflect. You got to check on your shit every single day. That's why it's talking about correction, being able to be corrected. Always and forever. Psalms 119, 152. And this is the reason why this self-correction isn't to have rulership or kingdom. It's not that. It's just to I don't know, man. It's an innate feeling just to make sure that I don't sin. The less that I have to deal with that, the better. Psalms 119, 151. Thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are true. Verse 163. I hate and abhor lying, but thy law do I love. Christians do not keep the commandments. They only claim the 10. They don't even apply those. Verse 172. My tongue shall speak of thy words, for all thy commandments are righteous. I don't get it. I don't understand. They like to claim that they follow the Old Testament as well. Psalm 6, 24, 25. It says, and the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is to this day, not being in the congregation of the and it shall be our righteousness, our possessive word, if we, possessive, observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God, as he had commanded us. But, again, we go back to GOP Jesus. GOP Jesus says otherwise. Matthew 5:17 says this, think not that I come to destroy the law, nor the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill what was said in the old, in the Apocrypha, in Enoch. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall not in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Not everything has been fulfilled. He says it in the, let's just say, the middle of the book. He says this at the beginning of the book. Deuteronomy 4:2, ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. He says it in the middle book. He says it, in the middle part. He says it in the beginning of the book. And then, just so you don't forget, he says it also in the end of the book. Revelation 22:16, it says, I, the Meshiacha, have sent mine angels to testify unto you that these things in the churches, wait, is this it? No, that's not it. 18, nerd. For I testified unto every man that heareth the word of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. Oof. There goes your great Talmud. Yeah, you guys are Talmudic. For you guys that believe that shit too. It's not a complicated thing to do, family. Sirach 44 says this. Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High, and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. Therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed. If he wanted to open the doors for everybody, why didn't he just do it with Noah? He could have done this with Noah. Why did he wait for Abraham? Because Noah had Shem, Japheth, and Ham. He should have just done it to Noah and say, hey, man, you know what I mean? Everybody's going to be blessed unto you, brother. It didn't go that way. And that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, just like the movie, The Ants, The Bug's Life, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from river unto the uttermost parts of the land. Which Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham his father's sake, the blessings of all men, and the covenant, and made it to rest upon the head of Jacob. You see? This is why Psalms 147, 19 and 20 says this. He showed his word unto Jacob, his statute and his judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so with any nation, as he had not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So now, let's go back here, because I don't want you guys to lose track of what I'm talking about. You see, I'm going back to my roots. Because, again, once you detach yourself from this addiction, your mind wants to rewire itself again. Now it's trying to be like, okay, so if I'm not, okay, who am I? This is what occurs. Sirach 44 reminds us that who he did his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, starting with Abraham, was a great father of many people. And glory was there none like unto him. Right? A lot of people don't want to know too much of Abraham. A lot of people don't want to study much of Abraham. But let's find out who this Abraham guy is. Let's find out. Matter of fact, it's 24. 24, it says here, 24 and 1. And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel and for their heads and for the judges and for their officers. And they presented themselves before God. And Joshua said unto all the people, thus say the Lord God of Israel, your father dwelt on the other side of the flood in the old time. Even Terah, the father of Abraham, the father of Nachor. And they, meaning Terah, Nachor, his father, and his father, all the way to Phaleg, okay, served other gods. Right, he served other gods. So these are reasons why he picked Abraham. Wait a minute, you telling me Abraham wasn't circumcised in 8 days? No. Why do you think Paul mentions him often? But if you don't study and read your book, then you're going to get lost in the sauce. Judith 5 and 7 says this. These 5 and 6. These people are descended of the Chaldeans, and they sojourned there heretofore in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the God of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea. For they left the way of their ancestors and worshiped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew before the dispersion, before Phaleg, before all of them fell into idolatry, meaning the lineage of Shem. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia, like Joshua mentioned, and sojourned there many days. They're talking about Israel here, the Israelites. Okay? If you go back to here, Holofernes is asking about who these people are. And he's telling them, okay, well, this is who they are, blah, 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 blah. And they came out of the Chaldee, and he's talking about Abraham right here. He was not keeping the laws of God until later in his life. He walked with the Most High for 24, 25 years before the Most High blessed him with a child. And then that's when he circumcised. Genesis 17 says this, and when Abraham was 90 years old, the Lord appeared unto Abraham and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect. This is why you have to understand this book goes deep, very deep, very deep. Right now, everybody in this entire earth, ether, whatever, have the spirit of going back to who they are. You're going to see nations become who they are. We are becoming who we are. We are coming back to the ways of our Creator. I don't care what you guys say. It doesn't matter to me whether you believe or not. I'm not here to convince you. You either hearken or you don't. And this isn't a so-called hate talk, hate teach. This is me saying, this is who you are. This is what the book says. This is what we must do. If anybody misinterprets it, well, that's you. That's your problem. I'm going back to what was given unto us from the beginning of time. God's righteous judgment. This is why we must understand what it's talking about. Man, let's just go to Romans 4. It says here, and what shall we say then unto Abraham our father as pertaining to the flesh hath found? Matter of fact, let me just read it in this way so you can make it simple. What shall we say then of Abraham, the father of our race? What was his experience? If he was put right with God by the things he did, he would have something to boast about, but not in God's sight. Why? The scriptures say Abraham believed God, and because of his faith, God accepted him as righteous. Why? Because Abraham was not circumcised. He wasn't circumcised until when? Until he turned 99 years old. Oh, dear Jesus.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
This is why you Christmas Christians have no concept of what you're talking about. Verse 4 says, I make this covenant with you. I promise you, you will be the ancestor of many nations. Who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why? Because he made a covenant with him and his descendants. This is why Paul, hold on, let me go back to this. This is why Paul talks about this in Romans 4. If for Abraham were justified by works, he had whereof to glory, but not before God. Why is he saying that? If he was put right with God by the things he did, he would have something to boast about, but not in God's sight. Why? Because he wasn't born under the commandments. His parents were idolaters. Now to him, for what say the scriptures? Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. He believed before he circumcised. Now to him that worketh is the reward, not reckoned of grace, but of debt. Let me read it in an easier way. A person whose work is paid wages, but they are not regarded as a gift, they are something that has been earned. You see? You have to earn this. I believed before I started really applying these things. You brothers and sisters have the same experience as Abraham has had. We did not grow up in these ways. We were in idolatry, Christians, Virgen Marias, evangelicals, Protestants. God knows what the hell you guys were. Some of you guys were Muslims and shit. You didn't know where to turn. Some of you guys were devil worshipers. You didn't know where to turn. But those who depend on faith, not on deeds, and who believe in God, who declare the guilty to be innocent, it is this faith that God takes into account in order to put them right with himself, meaning redeem, to redeem with themselves. Even as David also described the blessedness of the man on whom God imputed righteousness without works. That right there is Psalms. Delights in the fact that, like, for example, not saying that he makes an excuse, but there are certain thorns in the flesh that the Most High will probably let you like deal with. Like, okay, I know you're gonna fall because of that. I get it. I see it. I see you're gonna fall because of that. I see it. But there are some other ones, other sins that he's like, don't F around with me like that. Don't do that one right there. That one, I'll cut you off. This is why he says, blessed is the man who God kind of like winks at it like, oh, I got you, bro. I'll tell you this, man. I got the isms, you know, and I pray to God I stay sober. But there is one particular one that I don't exercise, and I'm afraid of that one. That's committing adultery, because I fear that if I was to, man, that connection that I have with him, the little that I have, I guess, it would just be cut off. You should know better. Saying, blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord will not impute sin. That's why Abraham, he was God's friend. That's why the scriptures even talk about, if you really want to know who you are according to the Bible, you got to go back. Isaiah 51:1, hearken unto me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewed, meaning cut from, and to the hole of the pit where you are digged, meaning brought from. So he took us out of a hole, cut us from this, like an unpolished rock. Look unto Abraham your father and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone and blessed him and increased him. This walk is lonely, fam. Because most people aren't going to believe you. Because everybody wants to fit in. Everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be accepted, except not everybody wants to do the work. Acts 3:13, the God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob, the God of our fathers, had glorified his son Meshiacha, whom ye delivered up, and denied him in the presence of Pilate when he was determined to let him go. Verse 25. What else did we do? Ye are the children of the prophets and of the covenant which God made with our fathers, saying unto Abraham, and in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed. Kindreds, meaning Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob, 12 tribes, the kingdom separated. The northern kingdom became just not extinguished, just disappeared in idolatry and disappeared in becoming other nations. That's exactly what occurred. Acts 7:2. And he said, men, brethren, and father, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia before he dwelt in Sharon or Canaan. Verse 8, and he gave him the covenant of circumcision at 99 years old. He walked with him almost 25 years before he circumcised. And so Abraham begat Isaac and circumcision him in the 8th day, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs, meaning Abraham did not circumcise in 8 days, which was idolater. So if you are going back to this time when Paul's talking, if you were not circumcised in 8 days, you were basically like a Samaritan. You were not a so-called Jew because you weren't keeping the commandments. That's exactly what they're talking about. So he's talking about being back into the fold once more. Acts 7:16, this is why it shouldn't be a surprise of why the Meshiach did what he did and how come Paul talks about Abraham so consistent. And were carried over into Shechem and laid into the sepulchre that Abraham brought for a sum of money on the sons of Emer and the father of Shechem. Here we see Abraham again. But when the time of the promise drew nigh, which God had sworn to Abraham, again, verse 32, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. What's going on here? This is in the New Testament. Why is this overlooked by you Christmas Christians? Romans 7:9, watch this real quick. Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all the children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Oh, my dear Jesus. Romans 11:1, I say then, had God cast away his people? God forbid, for I am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Paul talks about him being a Benjamite, 8 days circumcised, a Hebrew of the Hebrews, a Pharisee. He kept everything in line, but as soon as he found out how none of it mattered, he really realized it don't matter how perfect I can try to walk this walk if I still have hatred for my brethren. I am in sin. If you hate your brother, you're a murderer, and you're not a child of the Most High. That's what he was talking about. The last thing you want to do, first of all, family, is see your brother, whether in blood or someone you grew up with, get hurt because of your fault. If you truly care for your brother that you grew up with, right, your homie, your friend, and he gets hurt because of your fault, man, that shit is painful. I had a best friend at one time, you know what I mean? Never knocked him in or anything. I imagine, man, I should have snitched. I was like, nah, I can't do that. I couldn't live with myself to do that shit. And because later on, we didn't talk no more. Like all that shit I did, and that's what it mattered. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I could not live with myself that way. 2 Corinthians 11:22. Watch what it says. It says, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. You see this? Then he says, are they ministers of Meshiach? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant. In stripes above measure. In prison more frequent. In death. That's what he's talking about. All of that he considered dung when he realized that he hated his brethren, meaning he was breaking the commandments. Galatians 3. Let me give you something else too. Once again, he's talking to Galatians, but why are they talking this way? It says, even as Abraham believed God, verse 6, it was accounted to him for righteousness. See? Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. Because why? Isaac and Jacob. Faith meaning that they are of the seed, but they weren't in the fold no more. They were in idolatry like Abraham's fathers were. But something in his spirit said, this is not the way like us today. Once I realized Christianity was not the way, that's it. BHI was not the way. I knew it. And the scriptures foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, meaning first believing, preach before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in these shall all nations be blessed. Which ones? That fell off from the tree. Not bringing new ones. So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham. Why? Because remember, he wasn't circumcised in 8 days. He later found himself back into the fold. Do not be fooled by Christianity, family. Verse 14, that the blessings of Abraham might come to the Gentiles through Jesus or the Meshiach. Through the Gentiles, which ones are those? The Hebrews in a state of mind that are not Hebrewic anymore. Like Like, for example, the Samaritan woman. She wasn't keeping the ways of them. She was still a Hebrew of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. Why am I saying that, by the way? Because you could see it here in John. Let's see this one here. The woman cometh of Samaria. Then she says here, in this part here, John 4:9. Then say the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, ask drink of me, which I am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealing with the Samaritans. And he's talking about, like, you know, like who he's like, hey, by the way, here, let me just read it. Then the Meshiach answered and said unto her, if thou knowest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou would have had asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Watch this. Watch this. Verse 12. Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well? It doesn't end. It doesn't stop talking about the Hebrews here. Not the fake ones, by the way. Not the ones over there killing our brethren. The real ones. For verse 18. Verse 18. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. Why? Because he wasn't circumcised. First, he believed. Then he circumcised. This is why Paul says this to the Galatians. But before faith came, meaning the Mashiach's understanding, we were kept under the law, the Moses way, shut up unto faith, which shall afterwards be revealed. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto the Mashiach, that we might be justified by faith, meaning that the old way was a learning. That's why Abraham's story is so applicable to the New Testament. That's why Abraham is so freaking important. And if you don't know the story of Abraham, our forefather, then you will be confused by Christianity. Hebrews 2:16. This is why he says what he says here. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If the Mashiach was going to be revealing the door to everybody, why didn't he just have Mary marry a Gentile? No, don't work that way. Doesn't work that way. He never changed his ways. They softened up the Mashiach. The man was a revolutionary. You guys forget how upset he was? Is it this one right here? So yeah, here goes right here. I think so. Let me see what. Here goes right here. John 2:13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and the Mashiach went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and changing of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the charges of money and overthrew the tables. He started whooping their ass, man. Get out of here, bro. The animals, the people. He started whooping their ass. That wasn't God loves everybody. Christians really soften up this man. Matthew 19:16 says this, behold, one came and said unto him, good master, what good thing should I do that I may have eternal life? He said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. Why do you think he said that? There's none good. See, this is why Christianity does not answer your questions. This is why Christianity does not answer your questions properly. What were the first verses that I gave you guys? Remember? What did he talk about? If you go back, Job 4, check this out. Remember Hebrews 2:16 says that he was below an angel, right? Just above a human, so to speak. Okay. It says, Job 4:18, behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly, much less in them that dwell in the house of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. You see, Now you understand why he says, don't call me good. Don't call me good. You see this flesh that I'm in? There's only one good. So if you want to be, let's say, good, right? Keep the commandments. He puts no trust in his servants. That's why the Meshiach was saying, don't glorify me. Don't glorify me, because he understood that the flesh is very tricky. The ego kicks in like, yeah, call me master. Yeah, no joke. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but me. That is, there's none good but one, that is God. But if thou will enter into life, keep the commandments. Even he says it himself. Matter of fact, even he was talking about this. Matthew 24:5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Meshiach, and shall deceive many. He never said worship him. John 4, check this out. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Is that the one I'm looking for? Let's see. There it goes. No, John 4:24. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Worship him, not the Messiah. And this is what Christianity brings. This confused doctrine of devils. Confused doctrine of devils that's conformed to this world. Romans 12:2, it says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good. Prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Verse 4, for as we have many members in our body, and all members have not the same office. I didn't write that one, bro. This is the 13, Fulio. Sorry, fam. It says, for he is a minister of God for thee for good, to thee for good. But if thou do that which is the evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is a minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So this is why you have to be mindful, even within yourself. Even like, for example, now, like I might have some knowledge or wisdom. I still have to self-examine. You see it now in society. There's some people that are pushing, Bible stuff, you know what I'm saying, in certain channels, and now they're caught up with him doing some shit to some young girl. This was somebody that was supposedly teaching Bible stuff. But you see, you're not sincere with yourself. The Most High makes a joke of you. And, you brothers that I've talked to, you guys know what I'm talking about. Some older guy got a young girl pregnant. Now, supposedly some shit's going on, and now they're talking about him. Well, guess what? When you mess with the Most High and you don't really examine, and you're not about his business, you're just about, I want to be seen, I want to claim something I know, he's going to embarrass you. For he is a minister of God to thee for good. But again, it is also a requirement that you don't just preach, you actually walk the walk. James 2:21 says, was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? See, thou had faith wrought with his works, and by works was made perfect. And the scriptures was fulfilled which said, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. So again, he was justified by works and faith. Both, not only by one. Both. This is why Ezra says what he says. Look, check it out. I'll show you. 2 Ezra 7:9. It says here, everyone that shall be saved, shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, not just by supposedly keeping the 10 Commandments, voting for Donald Trump, and thinking that Jesus is in church on Sundays. And let me get on my knees and worship the virgin devil. Because the Virgin Mary is the worst thing. That's the queen of heaven, the queen of hell, I would say. Here, look, even it says, as a matter of fact, this is the trip of what's his name? Christopher Columbus right here. Wisdom of Solomon 14. That's the trip when he gets here. Check this out. Look what he brings for them. For the ungodly, Wisdom of Solomon 14:9, for the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto God. Why is that? Verse 12, for the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. Who gave you Virgen Maria? Sumarraga. Who gave you Christmas Christians? Evangelicals, Protestants, Catholics. Those people over there. Matter of fact, Sumarraga has the nerve and audacity to burn our people at the stake, right? Supposedly because we're worshiping other demons or demons, but yet he is worshiping the Virgin Mary. And shouldn't he have been burned? Christianity told us also that since, Jesus is here, he did away with the laws, right? God loves the sinner, but hates the sin. That's a bullshit lie. Sirach 12:6 says, for the Most High hated sinners and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly and keepeth them against the mighty day of their punishment. He hates sinners. Oh, but you see what I'm saying? He hates the sin, dog. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? No, he really does hate the sinners, bro. 1 John 3, check this out. 1 John 3:4, it says, well, whosoever committed sin transgressed also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. And ye know that he was manifest to take away our sins, and in him is no sin. Whosoever abideth in him sinneth not. Whosoever sinneth hath not seen him. Again, sinner, sin. He hates both. What are you talking about? He that committed, verse 8, he that committed sin is of the devil. Sirach 12:6 says he hates sinners. And here he says that the sin is of the devil. So explain to me what's going on here. Matthew 13:38 says this. Watch this. 13:38. Watch what it says. It says here, the field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. So maybe that's the self-examination that you guys aren't doing. This is the time where you have to really start determining, man, are you the wheat or the tares, bro? You got to self-reflect. It's not fun. Like I said before, this walk is not fun. 1 John 3:4 it says, whosoever committed sin transgressed also the law. Transgressed also the law. So now, let's go over a few things here. Because, Christianity loves to talk about love and shit. Right? 2 John 1:6 says, this is the love, and this is love, that ye walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye shall walk in it. You see? So a lot of times Christians like to say love. That's why these evangelicals, they say they love Jesus, so-called, or God. Or they think Jesus is God, I guess. They don't separate the two. And then they go and pass laws that oppress people and really hurt them. Galatians 5:6 says this, for in the Meshiacha neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love. Meaning what? Faith and works. Now, what are the things that are part of love? It also is also not doing certain, certain things. For example, Galatians 5:19 says, now these are the works of the flesh are manifest. Now, the works of the flesh are, Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these. Adultery. We know that in Deuteronomy 22 or Leviticus 20, thou shalt not commit adultery. Fornication. We know that in Deuteronomy 23, it talks about not fornicating. Uncleanness. We know that Leviticus 11 talks about those particular uncleannesses. Lasciviousness. We understand that as well. Now, it talks about idolatry in Galatians 5:20, right? In Galatians 5:20, you go to Exodus. No idolatry. Now, it says witchcraft. Deuteronomy 18, 10 through 12 says no witchcraft. And it says hatred. Well, we know that 1 John 4:20 talks about if you hate your brother, you're a murderer. And variance. It talks about variance in Deuteronomy 19 consistently. And then emulation. Emulation is a very simple one. You guys can look up diarchefish, which is, I think, in Titus. And it talks about being somebody, trying to mimic other people, not for the benefit of your good well spirit, but for the envy. This is why it talks about in 1 Peter 2 and 1, what are the first things you're supposed to get rid of? What are you supposed to get rid of first? Wherefore, laying aside all malice, all guile, all hypocrisy, and envies. That is a natural thing that we have in the flesh. This is why Galatians talks about getting rid of all of those things. Idolatry, lasciviousness, hatred, uncleanness, emulation, you know what I mean? All those things. Because we know now, through the flesh, these things occur. Why then Paul says, examine yourself if you're in the faith. For that same reason, examine yourself whether you be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Being in the faith is being in the spirit of the Most High. That's what it means. And you don't do this every now and then. You do this every single day. 1 Corinthians 15:31, it says here, 15:31, that's right. I protest by rejoicing, which I have in the Meshiacha, our Lord, I die daily, meaning every single day he works on these things. Every single day. Check this out. He even says it in Isaiah 58, verse 2. It says, yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinances of their God. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in the approaching to God, which, by the way, in case y'all don't know, my mom's name is Justa. And she came into this understanding when I was in her belly. Not saying I'm anything special. I'm just telling you that was my experience. Revelation 1 and 3. It says here, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So you do this daily, you do this often, and if you can, do it like Nehemiah does it. Check this out. Verse 3. And they stood up in their place and read in the book of the law of the Lord their God, 1/4 part of the day, and the other 4th part they confessed and worshiped the Lord their God. So let's say it's broken in 4 parts. The first 2 parts were, studying, right? And the second part was confessing. So one part of your day was to study. The second part of your day was to confess, re-examine, you know what I mean? Look at your ways, reflect. That's where wisdom grows. This is why we can't submit to lies, and we can't believe that Christians have it the right way, because they obviously have not. They never have. They never have had it the right way. But when you're lazy, I guess you'll believe anything. 2 Ezra 3 and 11, it says this, nevertheless, one of them thou leftest, namely Noah, with his household, whom came all righteous men. And it happened that when they that dwelt upon the earth began to multiply and had gotten them many children and were great people, they began again to be more ungodly than the first. Here we see now why or who. Okay, let me continue reading. Now, when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them, whose name was Abraham. See? Him thou lovest, and unto him only thou showest thy will, and made an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldst never forsake his seed. So Isaiah 51 talked about, if you really want to go back to who you are, you got to find out and dig into who Abraham was. But we have other religions that don't teach us any of that. It's for their benefit. As long as they keep you asleep, it's better for them. That's why we always have to consider our ways, even when other people are in error. 1 Timothy 1:1, it says, now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart and of good consciousness and of faith and unfeigned. from which having showed have turned aside unto the vain jaggling. Is that what I want to read? I don't want to read that. Let me go here real quick. Let me see why I wrote this. Hold on. All right. Well, we're almost finished, fam. Let me go ahead and finish it with some of these things real quick. All right. Matthew 7:21 says, "Now, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say unto me that day, Lord, Lord, we have not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name hath cast out devils, and in thy name done wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." So that's why I say, man, don't be boastful. Don't be boastful. If anything, examine and really get rid of all the clods. If you're dealing with shit, face it. Stop hiding it. Don't try to recreate yourself because, like, oh, you don't want to admit to your sins. If you have an ism, work on it and get rid of it. Hosea 10:1, Israel is an empty vine. He bringeth forth fruit unto himself. So if you're still an empty vine, guess what? You're not going to bring forth good fruit. Verse 10, "It is my desire that I should chastise them and that people should be gathered against them when they shall bind themselves in their two furrows." This is talking about harvesting. Ephraim and Jacob, together they'll plow and break up the clods. What are clods? The things that are underneath the earth. That's about 1 foot down. It's all clay and shit. If you don't get rid of it, the plant will not root itself properly. It'll never grow well. That's why it says, verse 12, "Sow yourselves to righteousness, reap in mercy, break up that fallow ground," meaning that dry brain of yours, that dead spirit. "For it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you." These things are important. All of these things are important. Here's why, family. I'll give you one example. This isn't your first rodeo. Luke 1:17 says this. It says, "And he shall go before him in the spirit and the power of Elias, to turn the hearts of the fathers unto the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make the ready a people prepared for the Lord." This is talking about somebody coming back. Matthew 11:12. Watch this. "And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force." Are we not seeing that now? Are we not seeing certain people claiming now they're going to rule Canada and Greenland and Panama and invade Mexico? They take it by force. They've always taken it since 1492. Verse 13, "For all the prophets in the law prophesied unto John, and if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. He that hath an ear, let him hear," meaning he was here, that was there. Regeneration once more. But Christians don't believe these things. Well, let's remind them. I mean, every now and then they go into the Old Testament. They sure as hell can try to prove a lot of different things, but we ask them, where does the Bible say that you're supposed to keep Christmas on December 25th? They can't find that shit. Job 19:25, "For I know that my Redeemer liveth, that he shall stand in the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroy this body," you see what I'm saying? Decay. You bury somebody in dirt, the worms eat it up. "Yet in my flesh shall I see God." That means that his spirit is going to come back into another flesh to see God. That's why Wisdom of Solomon 22:25 talks about this. "Nevertheless, through the envy of the devil came the death into the world." Why? Verse 23, "For God created man to be immortal." So this is real. This is real. That's why 1 Peter talks about this, getting rid of guile, hypocrisy, evil envy, all of that evil speaking. Because if you don't do that, he is not going to raise you up. 1 Peter 2:1, "Wherefore laying aside all malice, all guile, and all hypocrisy, and envies, and all evil speaking, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby." Why does it say that? Because I think all of us have that 5 or 6-year-old child in us still. That's why he says, be born again. Be born again. And in case you guys don't believe, let me show you something real quick. Decreto de Napoleon. Okay? This is a book that I have, Napoleon's statement regarding the 10 tribes of Israel. And in this book, he talks about that the 10 tribes of Israel are here in America. This is Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte confirmed that we are here. This is the name of the book. Decreto de Napoleón. He here confirms that the 10 tribes are here currently. And he knows that. Here he confirms it. So when you're dealing with people that supposedly were lost, accidentally landed in a land which later they considered the promised land, who later they started thinking that was there where the 10 tribes went? I don't know. Anyways, look, that's all I got, family. Hope it was edifying. I got this video to show y'all, and then I'm going to play one last thing, and that's it. Okay? So thank you for sticking around. Please share and like. And hopefully you guys can catch the class later on if you missed it today. All right? Anyways, I'm trying to rush. It's just that I do have some stuff to do. So you guys take care. Saludos, shalom. Buenas noches a todos. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for your support. And hope you appreciate the last videos.
Why is it only the Latin Americans? You know what I mean? Why is it not the Australians? You know how many Australians I know that live here and actually take your jobs?
There are approximately 600,000 undocumented immigrants from Europe in the United States. How come we're not seeing them being rounded up? Is it because they're white and not brown or black?
And why are we only targeting Latino immigrants? Is Asian immigrants, black immigrants, white immigrants, European, dare I say, you know?
I was an illegal immigrant in the United States of America, but because of the color of my skin and the color of my hair and who I am, I have never been questioned. I have never been questioned about whether I'm American. No one has ever said, do you speak English? Because they didn't assume that I couldn't because of being an immigrant. I am an immigrant in your country.
Brace yourself, you will never guess who runs a racist and white nationalist Twitter account. Okay, that was sarcasm because, of course, this is who would run that sort of Twitter account. Yeah, it's this guy. That guy is ICE Assistant Chief Counsel James Rodden. The Texas Observer is reporting that the Twitter account Glomar Responder, which is an overtly racist social media account, is run by ICE Assistant Chief Counsel James Rodden. For his job working with ICE, he is an attorney who represents ICE in immigration hearings where judges decide if people get to stay or not. How bad could this account really be? He has over 17,000 followers. Let's take a look. Well, we're off to quite a start. I'm not going to read it. You can read it. That's one. And another, migrants are all criminals. And ending strong. America is a white nation founded by whites. We are the historical and majority population, and it was founded for our benefit. Our country should favor us, says this man who's being paid by our government. Check out the Texas Observer article for more information.
My neighborhood to change. If my neighborhood is European, if my neighborhood they don't keep chickens in the backyard that crow at 3 in the morning.
What are you talking about? That's a complete stereotype. That's a complete stereotype.
Yes, and stereotypes are all true.
It's a racist stereotype what you're saying.
Oh, racist! Give me a break. No.
What are you going to do with the thousands of Muslims?
We certainly
American citizens who are serving in the military.
I'm sure that we just couldn't possibly survive with all those Muslim Navy Rangers. Yes, I'm sure that's true.
That is not right.
No, I'm talking about
You cannot make
Muslim...
fun of people who are saving our lives.
They want special holidays and special food.
So if you don't like their religion, you don't have to join them. That's fine.
No, they are.
But you can't discriminate against them simply because you.
Of course, anyone should have the right to discriminate against anyone he wishes. And the point is,
but not by the law, Mr. Taylor. You can't do that.
I think the law is absolutely incorrect.
Do you feel that whites are superior? They're more intelligent than blacks?
I think, on average, whites are more intelligent than blacks, and North Asians are more intelligent than whites.
How can you say that?
How can you think otherwise?
Mr. Taylor,
what evidence would you have to think that a pygmy is, on average, is just as intelligent as a Dane? Why would you think that? completely consistent with the assumption that black Africans are less intelligent on average than Asians or Caucasians.
That's absurd. That's repugnant and absurd.
Why would you even entertain the possibility that on average a pygmy is as intelligent as a Japanese?
The comparison that you are trying to make, it is simply impossible because of historical circumstances, because economic conditions, because of the moment.
We have to be willing to say to all those who are non-European, we wish you well, but this territory is for us. And sorry, we have the right to be us, and only we can.
Going on for 400 years brings us to another revelation, namely that the third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich. Only the people are poor. But there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. There's been billions for 400 years. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the flax, the hemp, the cocoa, the rum, the tin, the copper, the iron, the rubber, the bauxite, the slaves, and the cheap labor. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
Trump es elegido porque es necesario para el momento que vive Estados Unidos. Estados Unidos no necesita un hipócrita, necesita un cínico que rompa cualquier acuerdo internacional, un cínico que incluso pueda amenazar con salir de Naciones Unidas. Estados Unidos y sus súbditos británicos ya están en esta sintonía absoluta, ¿no? Es la ley del más fuerte y vamos a hacer lo que sea necesario para mantener nuestra hegemonía. ¿Quién es Elon Musk? Que es el más vomitivo de todos. Elon Musk es un personaje, un sudafricano, cuyo padre hizo riqueza con minería de piedras preciosas de sangre. Creo que la guerra arancelaria es una posibilidad, sin duda alguna, pero Estados Unidos de hecho perdería más que México. Estados Unidos necesita del narcotráfico, al igual que necesita de hidrocarburos, para mantener su sociedad activa, o inactiva, mejor creo que es el adjetivo correcto. ¿A qué me refiero con inactiva? Apaciguada. Pero la gente no puede creer que los grandes capos de las drogas están en Sinaloa, en las profundidades de la sierra sinaloense. Por supuesto, son los prestanombres de estos sujetos, pero esto se controla desde el norte. Esto se controla desde Washington, se controla desde Nueva York, desde la City en Londres, etc. O sea, el narcotráfico sigue siendo controlado por los angloparlantes, no solamente en América Latina, sino en todo contexto global. HSBC sigue lavando dinero para el narcotráfico. En este momento, en suelo estadounidense y en el occidente de Europa, están generando nuevas drogas cada vez más brutales para la población. ¿Por qué? Porque la población pide más, el adicto pide más cosas. Ya el fentanilo no es necesario. Ahora tienen que venir nuevas drogas sintéticas de laboratorio. ¿Y de dónde surge esa tecnología para producir ese tipo de drogas? Pues obviamente de los laboratorios estadounidenses, ¿no? Lo que está pasando en Argentina es lo que hubiera pasado si hubiera continuado los grupos del PRI y del PAN en México, ¿no? Hubiéramos llegado a ese grado. Tenemos un PAN y PRI que están en su fase moribunda, el PRD ya sucumbió, o sea, no hay oposición. O sea, incluso los grandes medios ya están resignando, no tienen absolutamente nada que hacer, porque incluso también han perdido popularidad. O sea, toda la gente, las audiencias se han trasladado a los medios alternativos o tradicionales, lo que también es un riesgo.
Que querían que trabajáramos a punta de ciudadanos por 25 centavos, amaneciendo hasta Metesol. Andaban los alcapaces en las calles, que no hubiera ninguno en su casa sentado ni acostado menos, y lo veían, vamos para afuera, ni permiso pedían los alcapaces. A punta de chicotazo, vamos a cargarse la calle, a cortar calle, por 25 centavitos, no pesos, como ahora. ¿Y quién iba a aguantar eso? Dígame, ¿quién va a aguantar eso? Luego resultó la revolución.
Why do they hate us so much? It's because we are America's guilty conscience. We are the faces of the lands they stole. We are the permanent reminder of the genocide they couldn't finish.
Have you ever stopped to think about how the food on your plate got there? Many might say, I bought it, I paid for it, I worked for it. And while that's true, have you ever considered the labor behind that meal? Behind every bite you take, there's a single mother working long, exhausting hours to provide for her children. There's a father breaking his back every day, earning barely enough to survive. There are teenagers who should be in school chasing their dreams, but instead they are in the fields because their families have no other choice. These are the unseen hands that make sure America is fed. Every meal tells a story of resilience, of sacrifice, of people who give everything they have so that this country could keep moving forward. Yet, their struggles are often overlooked. People see the food, but not the faces, the hard work, but not the hardship. This country runs on immigrants.
As a Mexican American, there's a part of me that belongs to a place I have never fully lived in. A place that calls to me, woven into who I am. Mexico. It's not just a country. It's a heartbeat, a rhythm deep in my chest. It's the earthly smell that rises from a fresh rain, the laughter that feels like it's been passed down through generations. But here, in the place I call home, I still feel that pull, like I'm never fully in one place, ni de aquí, ni de allá. I speak 2 languages, but in both, I'm still searching for words that make me feel home. In Mexico, I see faces that remind me of family, hear voices that feel close, yet I still feel like I'm just passing through. And here, in the life I have built, it's no easier. I walk these streets, but the rhythm, it's different. Here, I'm a little too Mexican. There, a little too American. In Mexico, there's warmth, family, traditions, and belonging. But there's also this uncertainty. And in the US, there's stability, opportunity, the life I have worked so hard to build. Yet, no matter what, there's an ache for the roots I can't fully return to. It's a balance, a dance between 2 places that don't quite fit. But somehow, I carry them both. I carry Mexico in my heart and the life I have built in my hands. I am Mexico. I am America. I am here and I am there. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly where I'm meant to be.
Sigo cruzando ríos, andando selvas, amando el sol. Cada día sigo sacando espinas de lo profundo del corazón. En la noche sigo encendiendo sueños para limpiar con el humo sagrado cada recuerdo. Cuando escriba tu nombre en la arena blanca con fondo azul, cuando mire el cielo en la forma cruel de una nube gris, aparezcas tú. Una tarde subo a una alta loma, mira el pasado, sabrás que no te he olvidado. Yo te llevo dentro hasta la raíz, y por más que crezca, vas a estar aquí. Aunque yo me oculte tras la montaña y encuentre un campo lleno de caña, no habrá manera, mi
señores y señoras, si es mexicano aquí como los que están allá afuera, y por favor, tengan un poco de sentimiento, tengan un poco de orgullo de ser mexicanos.
Ical, hijo, abre los ojos. Tu cuerpo se queda con nosotros, pero tu espíritu debe seguir. Busca la luz. Aléjate de las sombras. Deja que nuestro dolor sea tu fuerza. Desde aquí iluminamos tu camino. lucha como nosotros ante esta pena tan grande. Yo soy tú. Tú eres yo. La muerte que hoy nos separa, mañana volverá a unirnos. Eres libre, hijo.